Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Seal of Approval. Sorry that we're starting a little bit late. As you can see, Scrump once again isn't here. I don't know where he is. Hopefully, he said he was coming on. He said he was coming on, so hopefully he comes back. First of all, I just want to kind of explain why I haven't really been doing a lot of YouTube stuff over the last couple of weeks, because I know that my content, since I did that video on Brittany Kardashian, like it might kind of feel to some people like I'm just almost resting on my laurels because that video is doing quite well. But like, truth be told, I've been very busy with moving, as I think as some of you might know. Like I moved a couple of weeks ago, and that was pretty intense. And after having a lot of time off work, I've gone back to work now, and so I've had to deal with moving and going back to work off a long period of absence, and I'm just still kind of adjusting to a lot of things. But I have actually been working on a video that's going to be coming out next Tuesday. It's almost kind of like a two-parter, both on very different subjects. And in all honesty, it's something which I've been wanting to cover for a while. Like, I actually bought a book on the subject like well over a year ago. It was like in January. I bought this book called Towards a Gay Communism, which basically is kind of like a precursor to queer ideology. So like, if you don't know what that is, that's kind of if you think about a lot of trans activists, that's generally where all of this comes from. And I think a lot of people misunderstand why this lobby is so left-wing and where all this comes from. I mean, we see a lot of people just trying to throw around phrases like, you know, like they're misogynists, they're just fueled on hatred of women, when like that is literally that's not what fuels these people. Like there's no doubt some who have problems with women, but that's not the ideology within itself. And so the video that it is going to come out on Tuesday. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to work all weekends. I'm even going to work on it on Halloween. That's how much I care about you guys. Like, I'm going to work on it whilst watching Spooky Buddies.
Fun stuff.
So yeah, like, so that is coming out on Tuesday. And so I do want to apologize once again. Like, I know that especially I have a lot of people who support me on things like Patreon and Subscribestar, and you know, I do know that I have some responsibility for a lot of this, and like I will be getting content out soon. But in the meantime, we have Seal of Approval now. Scrump may have disappeared off the face of the earth, but we have Liz.
Hello.
So we are also supposed to be having We Got a Problem. Now, I know that he told me he was likely going to be late, so I'm not sure when he's going to be joining us. Hopefully it won't be too long, and hopefully Scrump will be joining us as well. But we of course have some even more special guests than Liz, and that is the Seals of News. And that's
some of which look a little scary there.
Yeah, so we like Scrump actually made this earlier. So like we have Franken Seal, and we have a Groucho Marx Seal, a Devil Seal, Count Drac Sealer, Witch Seal, the Court Jester Seal. I think that, I don't know whether that's supposed to be Pennywise because of the blue, because of the red balloon, but like, I just like to think that's a little court jester. And then we also have Sherlock Holmes Seal. I love Sherlock Holmes Seal. Like, he is going to solve a good mystery. So they do have some news stories with them, but I just thought before we kind of go into the stories themselves, I mean, one of these is one of the stories that the Seals have happened in the last hour. And so I don't know how many of you are aware of this. So France and Germany, within the last hour or so, Germany announced first, France announced shortly after. Both of them are going back into lockdown. Now, Germany's is going to be lasting, I believe it's about 4 to 6 weeks. Does it say on here how long the... Where the hell... Oh, here it is. Right, let's see. Okay, so, wow. So France's is all the way until the 1st of December. So that's from Friday to the 1st of December. So that we're talking...
This is insane.
Yeah. So that's more than 4 weeks. That's more than, let's say we have both of these countries going into a lockdown whilst all across Europe. Oh, we have a scrump.
Oh, terrible.
Hello.
Yes, my laptop got stuck in a crash cycle there. I couldn't get it to load Windows, so I've had to switch everything over to my desktop. Which is still on Windows 7 because it has some very obscure software because it's a workstation, and didn't want to play ball with my microphone drivers or my internet. So you've had a fun.
Yeah,
I think I just need to get rid of that laptop now. I had to reset Windows on it a little while ago, and it just would not. It loaded Windows, and then I loaded into it, and it would just not start. So I'm about 20 minutes late, but I'm.
You're here.
It's fast. It's faster than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to have another absolute IT disaster.
Yeah.
I might have to reinstall Windows again. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. Like, I had a feeling there would be some sort of technological problem going on.
It seems to be always the case with me at the moment. I keep having like technical problems back to back. So.
Yeah, and hopefully we got a problem. Will be joining us later. And he told me that he would be coming on, but I know that he's likely going to be late anyway. So he will hopefully be joining us later. But yeah, Scrump, have you seen this?
Yes, I have. Second national lockdown.
So both France and Germany, and like it was just weird how like I think Merkel was kind of hinting at it yesterday. But like it's kind of straight. Like within like an hour of each other, they both announced that they were going into lockdowns.
I know it's definitely, I think, almost like if they could do it EU wide, I think they would.
Yes,
that's kind of the impression I get from it.
Can they not? I mean, from somebody who's totally outside of Europe, can the EU declare an EU-wide lockdown?
Well, they can advise one, I think.
Yeah, like at the moment, what they seem to have done is basically said, each country for themselves.
Yeah.
Which for this whole kind of United Europe project, I think it was highly controversial. As a lot of countries kind of felt like, they pay this money into the EU, and what are they kind of getting out of it? I mean, you had the drama back at the start of the year with Italy wanting to basically kind of bail out some of their hotels, and the EU flipped out on that.
Yeah, there's one of the reasons that Jeremy Corbyn actually was not very keen on the EU.
Yeah.
What he said, and relatively right, I don't know, he came at it from the wrong angle, but he wanted to subsidize British business a lot more than it currently is. And under EU rules, you can't nationalize businesses like that. It just doesn't work. So I'm not surprised by this in the slightest. We saw this coming. I think before Christmas, we will see another UK national lockdown.
Yeah.
We're essentially in one already.
Yeah. So that kind of... before we talk about the state of the UK, let's talk a bit about the state of the rest of Europe.
Well, yes.
Because Europe isn't really taking all of these different lockdowns lightly. So let's start with Madrid. So this was back at the start of almost the start of the month. So this is a few weeks ago now. But this is just kind of an example of how these various different countries are taking it. So Madrid... effectively like shutting down areas of areas of the city because of the amount of protesters who were going out there. And this is just got bigger and bigger over the last couple of weeks. And then you also have Italy, where things are kicking off to an even higher degree. Let me just bring up the story that I have on Italy. I got really organized with all of this stuff, and then the links just kind of disappeared.
I know how that works.
Yeah.
It's very unpleasant.
So here we go. So flares, grenades, and tear gas thrown as Rome's anti-lockdown protests continue. Now, this again has been going on for a while. And it's descending into full-scale rioting at this point.
Oh, I can understand it. I mean, their lockdowns have been going on for a long time, haven't they?
Well, Italy was the first country in Europe to lock down. Now,
their initial lockdowns were horrific. I remember reading about those.
Yes.
Yeah, they were really, really harsh in Italy.
Well, so was Spain.
Yes.
Like Spain, there was even the kind of exercising on if you just kind of went out for a jog, like even that wasn't allowed. It's why a lot of the lockdown zealots over here were saying that lockdown was too weak because, we were allowed to go out on walks.
Well, it didn't work in Italy, did it?
No. I mean, they had the highest death rate of all of Europe, didn't they? Or, I mean, at least at the beginning. I didn't follow if it continued.
I think the UK surpassed it in death count, but one of the problems with COVID is each country records deaths differently. And a lot of it is, as we all know, a lot of it is deaths with COVID, not of COVID. One thing, though, that a lot of people seem to ignore is like Italy's hospitals were getting overwhelmed. Like, that was the footage that they were showing to terrify the rest of the world, say, look, this is coming to your country. Like when you have all of these different beds out in corridors, and it did look nightmarish. But then
CNN actually took footage, if you recall, of Italian hospitals and put it on CNN saying that
they did. They said it was the US hospitals. I remember that.
Yes. And it didn't happen over here. I mean, we had the Nightingales, which were never used, and really, they should kind of be using them. It's starting to, I still actually think the Nightingales are a good idea. I'm just surprised that they just don't use them.
The thing is, they grossly overestimate the deadliness of the virus, which is a good thing, I guess, that it's not as deadly. But we know now. The thing is, we know now the Nightingale debacle could have been excused if things had been worse, but it can kind of be excused now because they didn't know. They were ignorant. They overreacted, but they did so out of ignorance. But the problem is that now we know. And the Nightingale's never used. The NHS has been under capacity for most of this time, massively under capacity for most of this time. And it's insane that we're still talking about the fact that people want to have lockdowns, really, in this country.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a good point to then lead into the state of this country when it comes to lockdowns and the fairly kind of lovely festive news. Cops will enter homes and break up Christmas family gatherings if they break lockdown rules.
Yep.
Now, I found this fascinating. So basically, what this police chief is saying is they want everyone to be, following whatever lockdown rules are in there, and if families are seen to be breaking social distancing and having people around, then I think a lot of it's kind of put out there as a technicality, as in technically the police will be able to go in and remove families, but we all know that is what they would do, because as we saw at the start of lockdown, you had police officers going up to people in their own gardens. You had people being thrown into the back of police vans, walking their dog, and then having police barking at journalists saying that they're murdering people by being outside.
And they broke down the door to that one guy's house because his TV was too loud and people said there were people in there.
But the fact there was a party going on, and he should have opened the door, but they have the right to enter a property for any reason now. This is essentially suspended any kind of search warrants that people would want to secure, or it has really suspended the normal rights of people here in the UK. To a very extreme degree.
You guys don't have in the U.S., we have the Fourth Amendment that says it's protection against unwarranted search and seizure. So police cannot enter a private residence without a warrant. So do you have anything like that? I know it seems like nothing's in writing in the UK. It's like you have free speech, but you don't. So do you have the right to?
I don't. Well, the thing is, we don't actually have because the UK doesn't have a constitution. Like we should have a constitution, but we've never had one because, like, it's just not the way in which this country has been built. A lot of it is more kind of like presumed. Like we generally presume that we have these freedoms, but we never technically had them. And so it's very easy for politicians and the police to be able to effectively erode them because your average person doesn't think too much about what their rights are.
They don't understand them. It's not like we have, we don't have stuff like Miranda rights, stuff like that. It's not something that, like, a lot of people know that in the US. A lot of people know kind of, rights remain silent, Fifth Amendment, stuff like that. It's pleading the fifth is kind of a cliche, It's
yeah.
And that's because people
don't
have rights. No, we don't really have. You can say no comment. That's kind of a cliche, but we don't have like the Fifth Amendment. We have similar law, but it's not enshrined in the same way, and it's not people. The thing is, people don't take it as seriously here. That's the thing. People don't take their rights and exercising their rights. I guess it's good because we don't have shit like sovereign citizens and stuff like that. But we also just don't have people who are willing to be more robust in defending themselves from the police.
I think a lot of it is also down to general British attitudes. I mean, when you look at somewhere when you look at somewhere like France, there's regular protests and strikes that go on in France because France has a history of effectively revolution. Like that's something which the French culture has been known for. But in the UK, we've never had that. So I think a lot of our culture, by comparison, is like it's a more British thing to like moan about it. Like moan, like we are a nation of moaners. We love to complain, but when it actually comes to doing something about it, we are ridiculously apathetic. And this kind of leads on to one of the things that this police chief has also mentioned, especially with furlough coming to an end at the end of this week. There's expected to be massive layoffs across the country. Unemployment is just going to skyrocket. That's unavoidable. I do know people who have been affected by this. Luckily, like one of my best friends who is affected by it is so able to get another job, like an even better job, which is pretty amazing.
Well, that's good.
Especially in this climate, it was really impressive.
It's rare. I've been told most places have either suspended hiring or just even suspended searching for workers in general.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's not a good time at the moment to try and kind of get into work. But the police chief is effectively saying that combined with the with the amount of layoffs and rules, which I will admit at this point are becoming very confusing. Like, I mean, I thought that a lot of the time during lockdown, a lot of people who are complaining about, what we can and can't do, a lot of it just seemed to be general point scoring against the Conservatives. But now I do think that they keep on bringing in these new rules and taking away other rules, and you have all these different tiers, and some places the tiers are treated differently to others. It's becoming a lot harder to kind of understand. And every week at this point, we're not being offered any kind of hope from anyone in a position of power. All we're being offered is further and further erosion of our rights. And the opposition in this country, which for a second looked like they might actually start challenging lockdown, has now decided simply to swallow it all up because the experts said so. Like Andy Burnham was in an interview with Julia Hartley-Brewer the other day, and she asked him why he doesn't support like a local lockdown in his area because he recognizes that it damages jobs. damages the local economy, like all the problems that come with lockdown. But he supports a national lockdown, and his response was, "Well, the experts say so."
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, the one good thing that could come out of this is normal people starting to question the experts. I mean, you look at one big thing, global warming. There can be a huge discussion on it, but then when people say, oh, but we have to do this because the experts say so. And if you say, well, I don't think that that's the answer. Oh, why are you questioning the experts? And I think that coming out of this pandemic, a lot more people are going to be willing to question the experts.
Well, it goes back to Michael Gove's famous comment from 2016. I think everyone's sick of listening to experts.
Yeah.
Like at the time he was ridiculed for it because it does sound really stupid. But when I heard Andy Burnham talking, his answer was just, well, the experts say so. What Gove said back in 2016 made perfect sense because Burnham isn't talking based on his own logic. All he's saying is like, well, these people said so. And so that's fine. Like, no, that's like, why is that an accepted kind of viewpoint? Well, this person says so, so I'm just going to follow what they do. Like, no, they might be an expert in their field, but there's going to be other experts that disagree with them. Listen to a variety of experts. If you agree with some, explain why you agree with them. I mean, one of it, like another thing that she said was like, oh, another national lockdown is certain to work. Like he actually used the words certain to work. Like, it's not certain to work. At this point, not really.
We've never had a real lockdown, Rose. You just haven't had true lockdown.
Yeah, you just lockdown never tried. Yeah, I've said that before. I had an encounter today, actually. I had a moment, when I was in a little Sainsbury's near where I live.
Yeah,
it's covered wall to wall in wear your mask, prevent another lockdown, I hate the implication in a lot of the literature they've been handing out that all these restrictions that we're seeing now is basically people's fault.
Yes.
That they didn't lock down hard enough, therefore we have second lockdown, therefore it is your fault.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting and it's irresponsible because really in matters like this, we shouldn't just blame the government or blame Boris Johnson for the spread of coronavirus or anything like that because like one man is not responsible for it, except maybe Xi Jinping. But China, but you've got lots of different institutions that you can hold to account. The government being one of them, Public Health England being another. You've got SAGE. You've got all of these other kind of groups that you can hold to account for everything. But I think the one thing which is an incredibly toxic path to follow is when you start blaming your fellow citizens. Saying it is all your fault. It's kind of like with Brexit when you saw people kind of effectively taking their anger out on, those stupid Brexiteers. Like, oh
yeah,
God,
it is.
What dragging gammons.
The difference between this and Brexit is there is no, at the moment, unified anti-lockdown movement.
No, there isn't. And
there is no joined up unified lockdown. I think if there was one to form over Europe, it may create some pause for thought. But yeah, it's France and Germany have gone into a full second lockdown. Even though their case numbers are far lower than a lot of other countries, it really doesn't tally. Italy as well. It's it's what people have been calling the case-demic. It's high number of cases, low number of deaths. Yeah,
I mean that's why they're focusing almost like just exclusively on the amount of cases that are coming through. Like they bet like deaths are now secondary.
Yeah. At first it was deaths, then it was hospitalizations, now it's cases, because even if you get COVID, you're not going to the hospital in most cases, I think.
No.
So it's just ridiculous.
It's younger people. The things it ripped through the care homes. That was the big thing. It ripped through the care homes. They put a lot of those old people on ventilators, people who are over the age of 75. You're not supposed to really intubate them anyway. It's inadvisable. And a lot of them died because of ventilator-related injuries. A lot of them died from being put on the ventilator, which is a risk with someone who is over the age of 70. It's a known risk. This isn't controversial. This is very normal medical science. That if you ventilate someone...
If an older person gets COVID, you should not have them around other old people. You should take them out. So... and
that was it. I mean,
really go off on that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that's what happened in New York. It's what happened over here. That's something which people do need to be held accountable to. Like, I mean, like I don't care whether it's Cuomo in New York or it could be. I don't know how much of a say Boris Johnson had over it, but it certainly is something which happened under his watch. I've got really no problem with people holding him to account over it. But that's very different to the situation in which we're seeing now. Like
Even that could have been prevented. But
of
from
course.
the start, I honestly thought Florida was going to have the highest death rate in the country because we have so many old people here. So many people move to Florida to retire. I think the average age of Florida is probably much higher than the rest of the nation. I don't know that, but I would assume that. I have family members who work in retirement communities. So they were freaking out when this first came because they're like, we're going to have such a high death toll. We're going to have so many people die. And yet Florida's governor, and the administrators and the people working in the nursing homes, they did such a good job. We had a much lower death rate than expected. I was shocked. And so when I saw New York and all of that happened there, I'm like, you have no excuse. No excuse. You don't even have the elderly population we have. And your death rate is what, 10 times ours? You have no excuse. I have no pity for you guys.
The entire focus, especially at the start of it, was all on Florida. Like all the news that you would hear in the UK from about the spread of COVID in America, it was almost universally focused on Florida and people going to beaches. And like that was the big story. Meanwhile, it rips through New York. And no talk. Yeah, people were angry. But having said that, people being angry about beachgoers was a big thing over here. Like people got very, very angry about, day trippers to Snowdon or people going to the beach. Or people going to the park. I mean, going to the park was a real cardinal sin over lockdown. And especially like the people who just sat in their gardens with a glass of Prosecco on furlough. I'm just kind of wondering how many of these, kind of real smug types are going to have a very ugly wake-up call at the end of the week, which is going to be unfair. But at the same time, maybe they will think a bit more about the views in which they pushed, because it was obvious that this is what the end game of it was going to be, and it's frankly stupid. It's stupid that these people I mean, sorry to go on a bit more of a rant here, but I saw in response to the London lockdown protest on Saturday, there were people. There's one journalist, can't remember his name. He's a bit of a twat, and he was saying, like, oh, look at all of these people going out there to protest for the right to kill grandma. And it's like, that is still the view that these lockdown zealots hold. Like, they genuinely have such one-dimensional thinking that they think that that's kind of what people are advocating for. They don't think about why lockdown is a bad idea. And so the only fair conclusion I can come to is if they think that their opponents are that one-dimensional, they must be one-dimensional themselves, and they must.
Some people, I don't know. There's something. I don't want to say there's something wrong with them, but I talked with someone I know here in Florida. I don't want to give any information on him, but in discussing the lockdowns, and I said this is a problem. People are dying, and when I said, look, the suicide rates, at least in North California, are higher than the COVID death rates. People are dying because of the lockdown. And he said, well, I don't consider suicide to be a factor we should consider because that's a choice.
Jesus Christ.
I was like, I had no answer. I'm like, I don't even know how to respond to that. If you say, oh, I don't care about people who die from suicide. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, but that's I mean, like that hits very, very personally for me, because over lockdown, I've dealt with poor mental health for a while, but lockdown really, really badly affected me. And it affected me a lot worse than I expected. And so to kind of seem like, we have these people who virtue signal about mental health, about, oh, it's really important to, spread awareness of like suicide prevention. They're the kind of people who will put stupid, cringy posts on Facebook, the cut and paste about like, oh, these are all different kinds of antidepressants, but I'm here for you, and blah, 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 blah. But they don't actually care. They don't actually care when you come to the real nitty gritty of what it is. They don't understand. They just get angry about it. It's like, oh, you're just being selfish. Like they don't kind of realize that when you're dealing with depression and anxiety, it's uncontrollable. Well, at least you can control it. But it takes work to control it. But even sometimes that in itself isn't enough. I've got to be very careful when I talk about it because
a lot of people have very strong opinions on the mask that I don't
yeah.
know particularly large amounts about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, because I don't want to err on the side of you can't help it, you have absolutely no responsibility, and suck it up, buttercup. Because they seem to be like the two. They seem to be like the two kind of real mainstream opinions on it. When
and they're both wrong.
Yes.
I think everybody's different, but I mean, full disclosure, I actually suffer from depression and anxiety, and for me, pills don't work. I've tried it. I've been on antidepressants, and the first time I went on them, they helped for a while and ended up making it worse. So for me, medicine doesn't work for me. And most medicines have never worked for me for anything in my life. I mean, even painkillers, most don't work. And it's just something to do with my biology. I don't know why. But so for me, I have to deal with this, and I have to deal with it myself without the help of medication. And I have learned over the years, because I've been dealing with this, for over 2 decades now, I have learned how to manage it and how to avoid situations that are going to potentially cause a flare up. And some things you can't help, some things you can. But I look at like the lockdown, and I imagine, what if I was completely cut off from all of my support systems? I don't have medication. So if I was cut off from everything, I would be completely unable to control it. And guess what? I would die. And that's not something I can control. That's not a choice. It is something literally wrong with my brain, because if you actually have clinical depression, it means that your brain does not produce the proper chemicals to keep you mentally balanced. It is not a choice. It is not something you can control. It is your brain literally doesn't produce the right chemicals. So you have to be aware of that. Constantly, you have to be careful where you're putting yourself in which situations, and especially if you can't take pills. I mean, if you can take pills, that makes things a lot easier. If you can't, you have to be so careful. You have to regulate so many things, and so many people regulate it with exercise, because that's a big help. They regulate it with social activities. That's a big help. When you lock people in their homes and they can't exercise and they can't socialize, you are literally killing them.
No, I completely agree. And when especially when we're pushing into this Christmas period as well, which is especially in like Western culture, and specifically in the UK, it's such a huge part of our culture, Christmas. I mean, like, hell, this is like, where A Christmas Carol comes from. Like, a lot of like the famous Christmas carols. Like, Christmas is a big part of being British. And I think that this kind of threat of we might have to try a different kind of Christmas this year. We might have to do a socially distanced Christmas. For a lot of people, Christmas can kind of be quite difficult for them. Like, especially if they're fairly lonely, but at least they would be able to, like, they might be able to go and meet up with friends if they're estranged from their family. What are they going to do this year? That's a huge problem right there.
Like, the fact that they're saying we're going to shut down Christmas gatherings, that's saying this lockdown will continue for another 2 months.
Yes.
Yeah, they're saying at least, and I think we are heading into another national lockdown. We're going to have an effective national lockdown. I think they're going to move basically everywhere in the UK to level 4 before Christmas, which is going to make it a national lockdown. They're trying to keep people confused, I think, deliberately, in my opinion. I think there seems to be a deliberate attempt to make sure people don't understand what the rules are, so they're too really scared to do anything. They're very clear. Like I said, a lot of rhetoric about follow the rules or else. There's a double threat. There's a double threat of, if you don't follow the specific rules, you'll be arrested. If you don't follow the spirit of the rules, if you don't self-flagellate, you are causing more lockdown.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a blame factor.
Yeah, and like, and then we also have Wales. The land of my fathers. We went into like a 17-day firebreak lockdown on Friday, which is basically another lockdown, but this time
it's another 14 days to flatten the curve. It's a rehash. But I've seen this one before.
Yeah, like only this time it's actually worse, because supermarkets aren't allowed to sell non-essential items like people's clothes. And I've seen the zealots point out, oh, it's only going to be 17 days. Suck it up, Buttercup.
It's not.
Which it's not going to be 17 days.
They
These
said that,
people
like,
are absolute morons.
It said that last time. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you not get this yet?
So didn't you say that 7 months ago that it was only going to be 17 days?
Mm.
It was supposed to be.
I went to
Yeah,
back when the lockdowns first lifted in Florida, because we did have lockdowns for, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month, I don't remember. But it lifted fairly quickly with huge restrictions, and then the restrictions gradually lifted to where now supposedly we're back to normal, even though we're not quite, and each county is still putting regulations and whatnot. But when they first lifted, I had to go to the dentist because I had to get a crown in. It was a nightmare having a temporary in there for all of lockdown. But anyway, and they said, okay, well, once I finish, do you want to schedule your your visit 6 months out for your regular cleaning? And I said, no, call me back when you don't have the mandatory masks, when people are actually allowed to wait in the waiting room. Because they say, oh, you have to wait in your car, and we'll call you when the room's ready. This is Florida. I am not sitting in my car and waiting in Florida.
No. Fuck
no.
But anyway.
No.
Yeah. I told them, no, tell me when the waiting room is open and you don't require masks. And they're like, oh, it'll be 6 months out. Surely it won't be by then. I'm like, I don't trust you. 6 months out is going to be in 1 month from now. And they are still, that office is still requiring people to wait in the car and wear masks. I'm like, yeah. No.
I do want to post a little bit of kind of positive news from Wales. Llandudno is having anti-lockdown protests.
Right.
Llandudno is is a small town by the sea. It's absolutely lovely.
It is. I've been there. It's very nice. Very nice.
I have to say that name is adorable. Does it mean anything?
I don't know. I can't remember what it means. But Llandudno is lovely. Like, I really like that kind of whole area of North Wales. When I was staying with my parents before I moved, I would regularly go on drives up there just to kind of be near the sea. And I really want to go down there now because it's seal season.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, so you have there's like a plump of grey seals nearby. And so you can actually go and see them. Like, you can kind of stand from a distance with some binoculars and you can watch the pups. And I really wanted to do that, but now Wales is in lockdown. I can't. But these people are doing, they're doing protests against it. And it's only 200 people. But in a small town, that's a lot. That's a big crowd for a small town.
That is a big crowd for a small town, yeah.
And so, I think I am starting to kind of wonder whether the UK is actually going to come to a breaking point or not. I mean, when you combine, like, in a way where it kind of feels like either there is going to be a breaking point or we can just be walked over no matter what. Like, I feel like that's kind of what the point we're going to be reaching. So people in Wales, I have noticed more and more people in Wales are really getting unhappy with the lockdowns. They're especially irate at the essential items ban, or non-essential items ban, rather.
Yeah, that really seemed to drive home how nonsensical the entire thing had become.
Yeah, like, a lot of people I've seen who were previously pro-lockdown have now very much turned against it because of it. Then you have furlough coming to an end, so mass unemployment is just about to hit. It's just around the corner. And you also have the prospect of Christmas being cancelled. Just again on that topic, it annoys me when I've seen people trying to compare it to Eid and saying, well, Muslims were asked to cancel Eid, so, everyone else should suck it up. And it's like, well, Eid isn't a kind of like culturally significant British celebration. It's
not a national holiday, no. This isn't the Middle East, no matter how much they want it to be.
Like, it's different. Like, if like the UK, if we were in like Dubai, then it would be completely flipped around. Like, Eid would be the bigger deal. Like, that would be a big thing, but it's not. So it's like, yes, there's a few million Muslims in the UK, and yes, they're going to celebrate Eid, but there's many, many more people, like including some Muslims, quite a lot of Muslims actually, like to get involved in the old Christmas thing.
It's not a religious holiday in the same sense Eid is. It's a cultural and commercial holiday for the majority of people. Yeah, it's our holiday season.
Yes,
that's the better way of putting it.
It's simply not comparable. It's simply not comparable, and so people shouldn't be making that comparison. But kind of going back to what I was saying. Sorry.
You guys don't celebrate Thanksgiving, the fourth Thursday
No.
of November, but I'm sure you have Americans who live there, either, I don't know, temporarily or whatever, who have moved there, and they probably do celebrate Thanksgiving. And if you're locked down, they're not going to be happy about that, but they're going to understand it's because they live in England and you don't celebrate it there.
Yeah,
Christmas is something you do celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, like in London, there's definitely like kind of a Thanksgiving culture because the amount of Americans who live there. So there will be restaurants. Yes. So there will be restaurants that serve Thanksgiving dinners. Whole Foods in particular has a whole Thanksgiving range. I've only really seen Whole Foods.
Weird.
I've only really seen Whole Foods in central London. I can't think of where else.
I've not seen any in Manchester before.
No,
we do have a Taco Bell. We do have a Taco Bell.
There was a Taco Bell. A Taco Bell opened recently in Milton Keynes. Like, I tried to go there on Friday. I was in Milton Keynes going to IKEA, but like afterwards I was like, I'm going to try out Taco Bell. And there was like, this is like at 9:30 at night. And there was at least an hour-long drive-through queue.
Jesus.
For tacos. So now I'm postponing my trip until I can be sure to get some tasty tacos because I love Taco Bell.
Okay. Have you been to Taco Bell and you like their tacos?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, Taco Bell. When I go to the States, Taco Bell is my biggest guilty pleasure. Okay. Like, I know it's not amazing. I know it isn't.
Well, it's one of those things where if you like Mexican food, if you like tacos and you've never had Taco Bell, then I would advise you don't go because it does not taste like actual Mexican tacos. If you actually, it's kind of like if you grow up on homemade mac and cheese and then you taste Kraft, the box mac and cheese, you're like, what is this? It's not even the same thing. But if you like Kraft mac and cheese, then yeah, sure, eat it. It's just it's not the same thing. Don't be expecting.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. Like, oh no, I'm perfect. I love things like proper soft shell tacos and kind of things like that. But I love Taco Bell. Like, Taco Bell is I'm so happy that it's over here now. Like, honestly, it's like one of the best things that happened to the UK in years.
But I will say, I loved it when I was in college.
That's kind of an indictment of the UK, to be honest. But.
Yes, it is.
So I loved Taco Bell when I was in college, and I would eat there a lot. But then once I graduated and I could actually afford to go to nicer restaurants and I started tasting actual Mexican food, I couldn't even go back to Taco Bell.
I've just realized I completely missed the Seals of News this week. I missed their introduction.
You did, because you weren't here for them.
It's not my fault.
But we will introduce it. Like, I just want to finish my kind of point on lockdown, and then I'll read out some super chats. And then I'll introduce you to the spoopy Seals of News.
Yeah.
So kind of go, like, after going off on that Taco Bell tangent, what was I?
Taco burrito.
What was I saying? What was I saying? So basically, are we going to really be at an actual breaking point for the UK? I mean, like, you have Christmas being cancelled, you have mass layoffs, you have confusing lockdown rules, nothing but doom and gloom being offered by the government. Like, they're literally offering nothing positive at this point. They're not even trying to keep spirits up. Like, they seem to be actively trying to break spirits down. So do you think that there will actually be a point where the usually apathetic British people say enough is enough? Or will we just be like just how low can I bend my knee?
I think when people realize that Christmas, they're not going to have a Christmas, I think that might be part of it. I honestly think we're not going to see the real pain from all of this until April, until the end of the tax year. A lot of retailers are holding out for a strong Christmas, and they're not going to get it. They're just not. It's just a sad fact of the environment right now that they are not going to get a good Christmas. So January, we're going to see a lot of where people's jobs have gone of retail. A lot of people have gone to retail because a lot of retailers have seen increased foot traffic because a lot of the places are closed. Places like food shops, but all of the places have been, a lot of the only places that are open are, again, the food shops.
Yeah.
And if we have a full lockdown over Christmas, if we have a lockdown that stops people from doing in-person Christmas shopping or makes it so inconvenient that people don't want to do it at all, which is another likely scenario, we're going to see a lot of UK businesses. We're going to see, like, staple high street names go out of business.
Yeah. Oh, easily. Some places I think will be safe. I mean, like the amount of times I've been to IKEA over the last couple of weeks, and like it's always been packed. Like,
Yeah,
people. I mean, I now love IKEA as well, but like people really love IKEA. Like, so some places are going to end up doing really, really well. But yeah, I do
large
think a lot of
businesses.
The
thing is, it's really skewing the UK economy towards large businesses. Again, that's the reason we had the ridiculous sites in Wales with the non-essential items cordoned off was actually supposed to be kind of like a fig leaf to appease small businesses, because they've quite rightly said the supermarkets can open, but we can't, and yet they sell basically the same stuff. And then instead of saying, okay, well, shutting the shops is stupid, we shouldn't do that. Instead, they said, okay, we'll cordon off all non-essential goods in supermarkets. They took the opposite approach than I was kind of hoping they would, but
it's dumb. So does anyone have anything else that they want to add about lockdown?
Not really.
Not until after the election.
I've got quite a few super chats actually to go through. Sorry we've been talking so long, but thank you everyone. John Bork with the John Bork with 419.
One, you say?
One.
Oh, dear.
Oh, God damn it. With 499. Thank you for your service. You're a light in the dark. Thank you. Artemis Fowl with the with $5. All your moms are gay. and Artemis Fowl.
Classic.
Artemis Fowl with another $5. Stand back, everyone. I'm gonna say it. No. No.
Don't do it, PewDiePie, please. Don't. PewDiePie. PewDiePie, no, PewDiePie.
Oh god, it just reminds me of like some of the AOC memes from like the weekend when it's just like putting AOC or Ilhan Omar pictures over PewDiePie.
I think I saw those, but I didn't quite understand. Did she say something?
It's from the screenshot. It's like from the stream where PewDiePie said the gamer word.
Yeah.
Yes, I just didn't understand why they put AOC over it.
Oh, because she was doing cringe streaming on Twitch.
Yeah, they were streaming.
That makes sense,
they were streaming Among Us, and then you had a few outlets running stories like AOC makes Among Us go viral. People have been playing it for a while. Like, even I played it.
That one, Chief, but okay.
Yes, the Eunuch with $2. I'd love to be the fourth panelist today. I'm a hoot.
Who is supposed to be joining? It's we got a problem supposed to be joining.
Yeah. Still, I haven't heard. Wait a second. So he is going to be coming. He'll be coming like as soon as he can. He's just kind of wrapped up in something at the moment.
Okay.
It's cool. Frederick with the 50 SEK. Imagine Sweden being the voice of reason in regard to lockdown.
I know, right? We live in very, very strange times. I will say that.
And Miranda Sinistra with their $5. FYI, there was a directive when this first started that if a patient had COVID, it had to be listed as the primary death on a chart. And another $5 from Miranda. This has only recently changed, but that was only a few weeks ago. Having a death listed primarily affects how deaths from this pandemic are reported.
Yep, they're right.
Yep. Absolutely right. I mean, again, it was all about like everything which they could effectively tie back to COVID. They did, because these people are goons.
Yeah, in one of our states here, I can't remember which one. I think it was one in the Northeast. They actually said that the doctors could list COVID as a cause of death, even if the person had not been tested, but that they suspected it from the symptoms, or they thought it was possible because this person had been exposed. They could list it.
Yeah, they didn't even list them differently. They should have listed them as suspected COVID deaths. Should have listed them separately, but they didn't.
Yeah,
because reasons.
And one more from Jedi Knight Anna Quinn Cringe Walker with the $5. Someone should explain to AOC how expanding the courts is bad by using Among Us as an example. Sus.
I don't think that argument would work.
Right, and so Scrump, I
Yes.
think it's time to introduce you to some good friends.
Yes.
Good friends of yours.
The spooky seals of news.
There they are.
Aha.
The
Very
spooky
spooky
seals of
this week.
news. And
Did you like my Photoshop job there?
I'm trying to figure out, like, I think I've got most of them. So we have Franken Seal.
Yes.
And then we have Groucho Marx Seal.
Yes.
A Devil Seal.
Yes.
Sealock Holmes.
Yes.
Witch Seal.
Yes. In case you can't see it, if it's too small, they crashed their broomstick into the
I
ice cliff.
saw, because he's such a clumsy seal. So clumsy. And there's a very angry Count Draxila.
Yes, Count Draxila, yes.
And then this one, I think it's supposed to be Pennywise because of the red balloon.
It's just a generic clown seal.
I was basically thinking like Jester Seal. Like he's a very wholesome. That is a very wholesome seal. Like
Yes.
he's just dressed as a wholesome
adorable.
little clown.
Yeah. I did do Pennywise seal, but then it was too creepy. So I made it more wholesome next to the angry vampire seal.
He's angry. He wants Phoebe's blood.
He does.
I love these seals. I mean, the seals are like, you know, they are the seals of news. Like they are legends.
Yeah, legends in their own right. Yes.
Absolutely. So, Scrump, we've discussed lockdown. We kind of jumped on that before really kind of introducing the topics of the Seals of News. But the thing is, there's actually a lot of different topics that we had lined up, even outside of lockdown. I mean, like, the stream could literally go on for ages with the amount that we've got to talk about. So I've only put 4 of the different subjects on here. So we have the Rogan seal, which is the witch. We have the kids seal, the starving children. You know, the starving, emaciated children of the United Kingdom, represented by Groucho Marx seal. Humza, represented by Clown Seal. And then I think the Trump v. Biden seal, that is kind of the main event.
Yes.
But I think that there are a few other stories which you've mentioned as well, which may well...
I think we have enough to cover with all of that, really. I don't want to get anything too ancillary involved.
No,
there's a lot to unpack here. I will... It's probably going to be a briefer one, but I will go for Rogan seal.
Rogan seal. So why has the witch seal summoned up Joe Rogan?
Well, rather to the chagrin of the blue check marks, Joe Rogan has had Alex Jones on his podcast again, and as always, it was incredibly entertaining.
Joe Rogan hosts far-right conspiracy theorist Alex Jones on his Spotify podcast 2 years after Jones was kicked off the platform. That's just like epic troll level. It is.
Well, to be fair, Joe Rogan, his Alex Jones podcasts are like, they're like, I now think they're like 3 of the top 10 in terms of being listened to. They are incredibly popular. I think it might only be second to the Kanye one. I don't know though, because there's been some that have got amazing views. So, you know, this is probably going to get views in the tens of millions.
Yeah.
If his recent podcasts have been anything to go by. And honestly, I've seen it. I watched the whole 3 hours of it. And actually, Alex Jones is pretty restrained.
Like he has generally been quite good when he's been on Joe Rogan. Like I've not listened to this one yet. So I can't comment on the content of it too much. I have seen a lot of the meltdown over it, which is kind of as predictable as you would expect. So this is a kind of collage of blue ticks that Sophia made up. So, we've got plenty of interesting debates how to navigate free speech in the current age. None of them need to entertain whether Alex Jones should be given an interview. What? All right. So you've got how many of these people? I don't hugely recognize them specifically. So you have this person, why I quit Spotify when they announced this deal with Joe Rogan, because fuck him and Alex Jones and fuck Spotify. Lots of people talking about how they're deleting Spotify. Film Robert.
Film Roberto, yes. Motion
Film
picture Roberto. Filmo Roberto, yes.
Never been more glad to not have Spotify. Maybe more people should also try not having Spotify. Just deleted Spotify. I'm out Spotify. I cancelled my. Just look at the blue ticks. Just the wave of them. I get that Alex Jones is a controversial figure, but at the same time, he is someone that is just really, really entertaining.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just come on, guys, come on. It's I understand that you're mad, but he's fun.
But they do believe
if nothing
a lot of
else,
lies about
he's fun.
him. Yeah. You got to understand, there have been a lot of lies spread about him that say some pretty awful things. And if these people believe it, then yeah, it would be, if it was true what they said about him, then it would be pretty bad to have him being posted.
It's not.
It's not, I agree. But I guess I look at this and it's sad, because I do think most of these people, it's not just hatred of Alex Jones for his opinions. It is that they believe the lies that have been told about him.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the same with a lot of these kind of figureheads of kind of alt media. A lot of them will have all sorts of stuff. Hell, our good friend Papa Boomer has certainly been Le Boomer has certainly been victim of dirty smear merchants.
Dirty, filthy, dirty smear merchants. Yes.
But yeah,
yes.
Yeah, he's just an entertaining guy. Alex is that's kind of why I just don't get riled up really by any of the kind of things because he know that he's outlandish even when he is proven right with fairly kind of scary accuracy at times.
Well, and a lot of what he says, he will say things that even he doesn't believe to be entertaining. I think he's very similar in some ways to Steven Crowder in that, yes, he is imparting knowledge in his opinion or what he believes. He is teaching what he believes, but he's also trying to be entertaining, and he knows he's over the top, and he is intentionally over the top many times.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff he talks about is I'll make a joke, and then next day it'll show up on the Huffington Post, and you won't believe what Alex Jones said about this. And it's
my favorite moment of Alex Jones over the last couple of months is when he gets all the llamas.
Yes,
yes. He's like, oh, but now I have the power. I have my secret weapon, the llamas.
That was very cute.
He's I do absolutely love the Alex Jones folk song as well.
Yes.
I wish that I knew how to play sound through StreamYard. Because I would just play that for everyone. It's
selling their body power. It does gel pretty well, I will say.
It's incredible. It's genuinely one of my favorite songs to ever come out of YouTube. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, someone made a
imagine how bad she smells.
Obama and Hillary
both smell like so. But yeah, it's like a Bon Iver song, but it's all the words of Alex Jones.
Yeah, and in the video, it actually has the clips from the various InfoWars episodes where Alex is saying it, and so it's all synced really, really well. It's such a brilliant song. But Alex Jones is someone who, he comes up with very kind of weird things, but he's still a massive kind of litmus test for the censoring of people online. I mean, Alex Jones was one of the first big names to be kind of have a coordinated yeeting against him. Let's not forget. And at the time, there were a lot of people who celebrated it from happening. And
But he may have
now
been
look
the
at
only
state
one
that
where
we're
it
in.
was clearly, obviously coordinated. I mean,
Yeah.
you have so many people who have been banned from YouTube or banned from Twitter or banned from Instagram or banned from Spotify. But for him, it was just across the board all at one time. And the very day it happened, except for Twitter, that was the only one that didn't. And the very day it happened, Twitter came out and defended their not banning him. So it was very.
And then eventually they did.
Obviously,
Yeah,
caved.
they bent the knee. They bent the knee.
Yeah, they banned him later, but the fact that everybody banned him on the same day and Twitter defended not banning him on the same day. See, if Twitter hadn't said anything and had just let it go and he wasn't banned, I think that people would have said, oh, this is a conspiracy, and somehow Twitter's not in the loop. But the fact that Twitter came out the same day and said, well, here's why we didn't ban him. It's like very clearly you were in the meeting too and just didn't go along with it.
Speaking of, this is something that Liz kind of mentioned before we went live, so I thought it might be interesting just to kind of touch on it now. With all the screeching about Alex Jones appearing on Rogan, have you seen the kind of outrage about Vosh appearing on Tim Pool?
Oh, yeah, that's kind of like Z tier, though. I did see that. His performance wasn't, neither of the performances were that great. It was kind of boring, honestly. Vaush just lied a lot about a lot of different stuff, but he also didn't really land any punches at all. And he didn't put it, it was just a bad performance all around.
I mean, there's been a lot of people who were, saying that, I saw, Ian Miles Chong, there's a couple of other kind of conservative commentators saying that it's really irresponsible for Tim Pool to platform Vosh. I think that's really fucking stupid.
That's like the opposite. That's like the reverse version of, oh, you shouldn't have Sargon on your show. He's a Nazi.
Yeah, like Vosh has said some very questionable things. He said some very dumb things, and he said things which, are very, very, very dodgy. Like, I know, me and Liz talked about the, him saying that he supported, the watching of child pornography because he kind of sees it as hypocritical of people using computers, that kind of being what he means. But I just find that a very dodgy because he uses computers himself and he seems to be okay with using computers. So
it doesn't get into it a bit on stream.
Yeah. I'm sure he'd be able to give more of an answer to it, and I don't kind of want to necessarily jump on it and being like, well, that's proof that he is a deviant.
Oh no, he is a deviant. He's also made comments about bestiality as well.
Oh God, yeah, of course.
Okay, never mind. I won't. I could go into it, but I won't. Not on this one. I do think, though, so many things I've seen on Twitter, people pushing back against him hosting Vosh. I've noticed that the loudest critics seem to be the recent converts to the right, the recent people, the people who are just recently saying, "I'm voting Trump" and going all the way. And it was interesting to me to see. And I actually made a comment. I said that the people leaving the left. What did I say? I said it's like all the Californians moving to Texas, but still voting for the same policies that made California what it was in the first place. You have so many people jumping over to the right, but still bringing the same ideology of the left with them, and not realizing, no, this is what caused the left to become what it is, and why you left the left. But it's like it's again the no true communism. It hasn't been tried yet. They're bringing the same mindsets and they're still functioning from that same mindset. Why are you platforming this person? Shut them down. It's like, don't you understand that is?
I just think it's kind of inconsequential in my opinion. I just don't find this whole thing particularly newsworthy, and I don't know why people are, when there's so much bigger things that have been going on this week. It's like a D-level story in my opinion. So I think
it's the reaction. I think the story is more the reaction. It's kind of like the New York Post article. It wasn't the article that made the story. It was the censorship of it that made the story. So here, it's not so much the fact that Tim platformed Vosh as that he has so many people who are on the right and are anti-censorship now saying you shouldn't have platformed him. And I'm of the opinion he can platform whoever he wants. And I'm also of the opinion if you don't like it, you have every right to call him out on it and say he shouldn't do that, as long as neither side is trying to compel the other. I can say, Tim, you should not have had Vosh, and that's horrible, and I can't believe you did that. And I did watch the whole thing, and I thought the whole thing was painful. And honestly, I kind of wish he hadn't platformed him. I have every right to say that. I have no right to tell him to try to force him not to. And just like he has every right to say, I'm not going to listen to you, he has no right to say, you must watch my stream.
I saw bits of it, and the main problem I had is he didn't seem to have done his homework on Vosh at all. He didn't really seem to know who he was, what he believed, and he was not prepared to counter any of his points.
Tim Pool doesn't do that.
I know he doesn't, but it's a case of, you're going to have someone on who's going to basically lie every sentence. You need to be at least able to it's the whole thing about platforming someone uncritically, which I think if you have someone on and just nod along with them, I think that's a bad idea, especially if someone has genuinely warped ideas, or ideas that are saying things that are just very, very provably untrue. I wouldn't mind people having on someone like Sagan and challenging him more, or I think that's better. I think just having someone on and nodding along with them when there's someone who's very dishonest is, I don't know. I don't think it was the best approach.
The problem is you're talking. Yeah. The problem is you're talking about Tim Pool. He works like 14-hour days. He doesn't have time to research his guests. Unless it's someone whom he's already researched through doing his stories and everything, he probably doesn't know much. He knows very little about them. If he's somebody like Joe Rogan, that all he does is his podcast, then yes, he can research his guests.
That's kind of a problem, I think, with Tim spreading himself a bit too thin.
Yeah, like I would say that if he's going to be doing these podcasts, because he does it all in his studio, doesn't he? If he's going to kind of be jumping in on that field, then he should be applying the same kind of standard that we would expect of someone who does it almost entirely like Rogan, because he's still ultimately entering that same field. He's effectively a competition to do Joe Rogan, albeit on a much smaller scale.
I would agree, and if he stays with this, and if it does go crazy, whatever, then I could see him doing that. But if you recall, Timcast IRL was never meant to be that. It was just him and Adam talking about UFOs. It was originally not even supposed to be political. It was intentionally supposed to be not political. It was just going to be him chilling in the evenings, just chatting about stuff.
What happened to that?
And then it developed. It changed dramatically and became what it is today. But it was never meant to be this. And so I think it now has become its own life, if you will, or its own entity. And he is going to have to choose whether he's going to invest more time and energy in this and make it bigger, or whether he's going to continue as it is, where he doesn't research his guests and it's just him chatting with people that he may know nothing about, in which case you're going to get more like this. I think that right now it's probably in not necessarily a transition phase, but it's still comparatively new, and I'm not sure he knows what he's going to do with it.
So I think we'll move on. Just before I do so, hi Buck. I just saw Buck Angel's watching.
Oh, hi Buck.
Hi. I need to get him back on. Buck's lovely.
You do. I've never spoken to Buck Angel, and that'd be interesting.
He is such a lovely guy.
Oh, I've heard as much from you and from other people, but yeah, it's to sum up though, go watch Joe Rogan and Alex Jones. It's a lot of what he says is surprisingly mild and actually makes sense now. I think the world has finally caught up to the bulk of what Alex Jones has been saying, which is a very interesting.
Which is turning the frogs gay.
Yes,
which he was right about that.
Yep. I still just love the llamas now, like a secret weapon.
The llamas were great. I agree.
Llamas are great.
Any fluffy animal, though. I mean, come on.
I mean, now we have some fluffy animals here. We have fluffy animals here, like the seals of news.
And the clown is the fluffiest. He's the cutest.
He is very fluffy. So which seal would you like to pick, Liz?
I don't know anything about Humza, but the clown is the cutest, so let's go with him.
So Humza. So let me just. I've got. Oh, for God's sake! Like I keep on having all these various like kind of links up to talk about different things. So Humza is Humza Yousaf. Now he is a member of the SNP. And you might have heard about a hate crime bill which he's looking at pushing.
Oh, yes, I saw this article. I did not associate it with his name. Yes.
So he is like this big advocate of this basically a hate speech bill that would seek to criminalize like as much as he's trying to talk around like, oh no, it's not going to kind of prejudice like normal opinions and normal speech, but that's what they all say. Like, because it always comes down to who is the one who decides what is hateful and what isn't. And in this instance, he wants to be able to push it further to seek to criminalize just dinner table conversations. Now, he clarified this in a further tweet. I don't know whether I still have that up, annoyingly or not, but for God's sake.
Anytime they clarify it later, you have to wonder, did you actually misspeak, or is it you were trying to see if you could get away with it, and then when you found you can't, you backed up just as much as you thought you needed to?
But the thing is, he doesn't even really clarify it.
He very clearly said in the Scottish Parliament that this law will apply in people's homes.
Yeah. So this is what he says. So if you invite 10 mates round, you're not allowed to do that nowadays. It can be proven beyond reasonable doubt you intentionally stirred up hatred against Jews. Why should this not be prosecuted? It would if you did so down the pub, but not in your house. For racial stirring up offences where likelihood lim still exists, as opposed to other offences that are intent only, I can see the argument. But what is the strong argument for those offences where intent to stir up hatred has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt? But again, define hatred. What are you specifically referring to here? Because it's so open to interpretation, and especially where I see a lot of intersectional arguments, being a trans YouTuber who talks a lot about the kind of abuses that people have when it comes to taking offense and being able to effectively push it as their own, kind of using the law as just a way of silencing people. If you say that something is hateful, like for example, just the phrase adult human female can be seen as hateful to some of these people. So that could be considered stirring up hatred against trans people by using that kind of phrase.
I'm sure that phrase is now a far-right dog whistle.
Yeah, well, it is. It's considered a turf dog whistle nowadays, which is stupid. But that's an example of how it goes. Like a lot of the time, they'll always try and push. Well, if people are sitting around the table and talking about killing the Jews, that's something that should be prosecuted. But that's not where this is going to go.
Again, it's already shown in Scotland that they're willing to prosecute people over jokes.
Yes.
I think it honestly feels like a law almost aimed at Count Dankula.
Yeah.
I think they got incredibly pissed. I think the Scottish government got incredibly pissed off over that, honestly. I think that they were more embarrassed by it and they knew more about it than they let on, from what I've seen, and how international the whole thing went. And it feels like kind of a swipe at the critics. To be there was that guy who was arrested for calling Nicola Sturgeon a Nazi, and he was arrested under the gross misuse of communication stuff. It was basically the same thing Dankula was arrested under.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, there's people who say worse things to people on Twitter every single day. There's probably SNP MPs who say worse things to people on Twitter.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at an example which I always kind of point to. Look at black conservatives. Yeah. Look at the amount of people, especially white people. A lot of right-on white progressives love using particular slurs against black conservatives.
Yeah. I saw the 50 Cent's ex-girlfriend when she's like, I had to remind him that he's black.
Yeah.
That is disgusting.
It's racist. It's racism.
Yes,
It's
it is very
absolute
racist.
racism. But like, you know, like they're not the ones that are really going to get stung by this, are they? Because they have the right ideology.
Yeah, when I first read this, when I saw what was going on, I thought, "Oh, what are they doing?" And my first thought was somebody's 14-year-old daughter comes home and says, "I'm non-binary and I'm not male or female. I want you to refer to me as they, them." And their dad says, "You're crazy. Go away." Or, "Stop this. This is ridiculous." "I'm calling the police." That's what I thought of. That's what this is going to be targeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you have people like there's I can't remember his name. There's this kind of weird guy who's like saying that he's non-binary, and he did a video, I think it might have been yesterday, where he basically just says like, you have to respect me because I am non-binary. It doesn't
I don't
matter
have to
whether you
respect
understand it.
anybody.
Yeah, and it's like you don't. Nobody has to respect you at all. Like you just kind of instantly kind of demand respect, and if you don't receive respect straight away, you consider it NB-phobic. Like
NB-phobic.
NB-phobic is a phrase that these people use. It is
NB-phobic. I'm not
NB-phobic.
NB-phobic.
Scared of.
Again, I might get in trouble for going into this on this stream, but transphobia is a very real thing that where you actually are there is a thing where you're afraid of trans people. And honestly, I never understood it, why people were afraid of clowns, because I'm not, but I've noticed something. My brain is such, I get a literal visceral reaction. It is a fear thing. If I look at someone and my brain cannot figure out what gender they are, it's like, if it's cross-dresser where it's very obviously a man dresses a woman or a woman dresses a man, and it's very clear, that doesn't bother me. But when I look at someone and I cannot identify the gender, there is an actual fear reaction. And I've had to deal with that. I've had to kind of, train myself not to react like, so, and when I realized, I thought that's probably what originally transphobia would be. There is an actual literal reaction that some people have. And I can only compare it to people who get freaked out at the sight of clowns, because clowns are not scary. I'm sorry, anybody who thinks clowns are scary. They're not. Clowns in real life are very sweet people. So anyway, but you can't control what you're afraid of. So when I hate it when people are like, "Oh, you're transphobic. That's horrible." It's like, if they are legitimately transphobic, they can't control it. Okay, it's not. I don't choose to be afraid of cockroaches, but I am terrified of cockroaches. They can't hurt me, but I am terrified of them.
It's why phobic is such a bad term, I think, for that. Just say that they are hateful towards trans people.
I mean, like, just like the phrase like anti-gay.
There's a huge difference between being afraid of something and hating something. I don't approve of hating anybody other than murderers and pedophiles. Yeah, and rapists, I guess. Absolutely you can hate those people. But, just normal people, no, you shouldn't hate them. You can be afraid of them. I mean, there are some women who are actually afraid of men because they've been abused or whatever. That is a real thing. That's not the same as hating them, because there are a whole lot of feminists who literally hate men and have no reason. They're just, and that's wrong. Being afraid is not wrong. Hating is wrong. And so I hate it when people just say, "Oh, you're transphobic and that's horrible. You're a hateful bigot." It's like, no, if you are legitimately transphobic, that's not hateful. It doesn't, you have nothing, most people who are transphobic, you have nothing against them. It's just that there is this reaction. Again, it's like, like fear of whatever. I also have a fear of water, or like a fear of the ocean. Oh, it absolutely terrifies me. I've had nightmares about the ocean. And which, when you live in Florida and everybody loves the beach, and I'm like, I don't want to go to the beach. It's scary. Anyway, all that to say, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a big tangent. But the term transphobia really frustrates me. It really upsets me.
Now it's like I do think that phrases like anti-gay or anti-trans is a lot clearer. Like,
yeah, that is.
Like, I mean, I don't think the phrase homophobia was ever meant to explicitly refer to like a kind of visceral fear in the same way that, like, that one might have a fear of moths. Like, it's more to describe a deep-seated hatred. And so I think it wasn't kind of meant to be used as like a literal phrase, but at the same time, people know what a phobia is. And so it's easy to kind of understand why people might think that it is specifically talking kind of about a fear. You know what I mean?
I think that, though, originally it was meant to be talking about a fear, because I think in the beginning, most people don't like being told you're a coward, you're afraid, you're just you're yellow. So in the beginning, when you first had, the issue of trans people coming more to the forefront of the culture, and people were saying, "Oh no, that's horrible," and "Oh, you can't do that," I think it was originally meant to be classified as a fear. It's like, oh, you're just afraid of it. Oh, you coward. You're just afraid. You're just afraid. But I'm not afraid. I'm not. And so I really think that they did originally mean transphobia, saying you're just scared. And because people would react, say, I'm not scared. I'm not scared. And then it eventually transitioned to becoming you hate it. But I do think that originally they used that word intentionally, it kind of to mock people and to make them say, no, I'm not afraid.
Yeah, it's to go back to the whole Hamza Yusuf thing. This is just a long line of the latest in a long line of SNP legislation that really targets the privacy of people's minds. The big one that got repealed relatively recently was the football hooliganism one, which was ridiculous. It was, if something was said, normally it was fine, but it was said in the context of a football match or a football club, it became an offense. It was really weird. And it created, like, the anti-sectarianism stuff, it created this weird divide. It was also very unevenly enforced. A lot of people don't realize that in Scotland, there's still a lot of, like, Catholic-Protestant divide. And the SNP very much falls on the kind of one side of the sectarian divide. And it was seen as a kind of a cudgel to beat again, people who disagreed, or not even people who disagreed, but people who were different as well. It kind of became an idea that they were essentially using it for sectarianism. It was a very bad law. Everyone hated it, and it went away. But that was only after very intense public pressure. And they've been kind of testing the waters for stuff like this for a long time. It's a long-term project of the SNP to essentially erase free speech in Scotland, especially when it comes to criticizing them.
So does anyone have anything else that they want to add on the subject before we move on?
Just that this is a gross overreach of power by the government.
Now, I just noticed someone asking a question on the chat. If Rose found out Yaniv was an elephant seal in a past life, would Rose still like seals? Well, like, Yaniv would never be an elephant seal because elephant seals are seals and seals are good. So, like, I no, don't blaspheme against seals.
I think I mentioned in the people it's okay to hate. I think I put pedophiles in there. I'm not sure. If I didn't, I will add that now.
Speaking of Yaniv, I think I have noticed a few people in the chat talking about Jessica Yaniv. So I just might as well just kind of quickly touch on like what Yaniv has kind of been up to, because there isn't really too much to talk about, but I might as well kind of acknowledge it, because I have said I'm not going to be focusing that much on Yaniv anymore until something big happens, like effectively being sent to prison. But for those who might not have seen it, Yaniv is taking more people to effectively like the human rights, kind of like Canadian Court of Human Rights. It's yet another example of Yaniv being able to abuse Canada's system, basically by saying that this beauty pageant discriminated against him because they don't allow pre-op trans women to take part. So, like, they're perfectly fine with post-op trans women, but pre-op is kind of where they've drawn the line, which is perfectly fair and it's perfectly reasonable. As to whether this case could potentially go anywhere, I would say that it won't, because Yaniv has shown to be grossly incompetent with virtually every case that he's been involved in. It would be kind of like, I do think that the kind of the defense on this probably isn't going to be as robust as the ball waxing case was, simply because the ball waxing case kind of involved openly touching genitals, whereas this is going to be more of a question of, well, if a trans woman is a woman, it doesn't matter whether or not they've had the surgery, so you have to let them in. Although it should be noted that the organizers of this beauty pageant are apparently of Asian descent. Now, the reason why I'm pointing that out is because Yaniv is openly racist against Asian women.
Yeah, like to an extreme degree.
very extreme degree. Like Yaniv really, really hates Sikhs. And I don't understand it.
It's a very specific thing, but yeah, I remember reading that as well. It's like, what?
Really
Yeah, so there is always the potential that there could be a like a racial aspect to this, because there was definitely a racial aspect to a lot of the ball waxing cases, and Yaniv pretty much showed that with the way that he had acted on social media. So
it seems like at some point you have to be able to say this is not a trans person. How long has it been going on and he still hasn't had the surgery? No, I'm sorry. This is a man dressed as a woman. This is not. He doesn't have gender dysphoria. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. If people are making an active attempt, then yes, you can believe that yes, this is a trans person. Somebody like this, no, this is a grifter.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of research into Yaniv when I did the Pillars of the Community video on him last year. And it was through doing that I saw that Yaniv has always been a grifter with the amount of kind of false lawsuits that he's passed. Like one really weird one involved him being at a theatre with a group of students, and the students burned some sage, or it's either sage or thyme. It might have been thyme actually, but even they burnt some herbs, to kind of get the scent or whatever. I think it might have been a part of a performance. And Yaniv took the theatre to court, saying that the burning of the herbs gave him breathing problems. Like, that's the level of grifter that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, they're a serial, they're a serial frivolous lawsuit filer.
Yeah. So, like, I this is like the reason why I haven't kind of done like a proper video on this is I do. Like, I can talk about, like, kind of Yaniv in passing like this, but when it comes to actual dedicated videos or, like, appearances in Trans Stupid, at this point, there isn't a whole lot more to say about Yaniv that hasn't already been said, unless something really big happens. Like, Yaniv is actually sent to jail, because that in itself will actually be a big news story. Because Yaniv will push to go into a women's prison, and it will be a kind of similar situation to what we've seen with Barbie Kardashian in Ireland, only it'll be happening in Canada.
Oh God, the whole Barbie Kardashian thing.
Yeah.
I forgot that existed for a second there. Now I
know. But like, yeah, it is something which will be absolutely 100% newsworthy if that happens. And so when that does happen, yeah, I will talk about it, and I'll probably talk about it at length. But really, like with Yaniv, because Yaniv has tried to file more cases against like the ball waxers, and he does. This is just generally what he does. Like he does just like to file lawsuits, and I think because he's he's on disability benefit, so he gets so he gets a lot of his. I mean, this is something which I've seen with a lot of the trans legal grifters out there, because there are a number of them like Yaniv that just can't file frivolous lawsuit after frivolous lawsuit. I might be in a position one day to talk about one of these things that happens to me.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Yes. But I'm not going to talk about that one because I don't know the full kind of legality of it, although it's fucking hilarious. But actually, I might as well just kind of allude to it now that I'm talking about it. So a few months ago, someone who is a bit of a basically files a lot of fairly lame lawsuits, not naming any names. This person actually sent me an email accusing me of making a dossier about them. And they also accused me of posting on kiwi farms and talking about the
part.
It's so that their logic as to why I wrote this document is one. The document features a quote from me on it, which for some reason has whoever wrote this document actually doxed me and has my name on it. But this person saw my name on it, so assumed that this must have been me who wrote it, even though it's not written in my style at all. but also they accused me of being a Kiwi Farms poster because someone on Kiwi Farms had a picture of a seal as their avatar.
Yeah, the picture of the seal part is what threw me.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, they had a
You
picture
are
of a
the
seal.
only person in the world that loves seals, Rose.
Well,
You
yeah.
have to acknowledge it.
What was even more interesting was the exact link that they had from it. It's like, oh, it's very similar to a picture that you shared on your private Facebook page, because this person docked my Facebook as well. So they talked about a very specific seal picture that was posted on my Facebook on the 23rd of February this year. But this picture wasn't one that I had even really shared. Basically, I shared a fundraiser for Seal Rescue Ireland, and it just so happened to have a picture of a seal on it because it's a seal charity. And so because I shared a link to Seal Rescue Ireland, this person thought I must therefore be a poster on Kiwi Farms. Basically, the kind of the hilariousness of all this was this person sent me a 15-page hit piece on themselves to me. And it's like, oh, I think you talked shit about me in the past. Here's all of this bad stuff I've been accused of doing. It's like, that's a special. That is a special. That is special.
Oh, wow.
That is very. It's not the
very special.
A bold strategy, Cotton.
Again, I'm not mentioning any names as to who that is. Not mentioning any names because I can't be bothered with it. But it was like, looking back, it is really, really funny.
Yeah, it was kind of concerning at the time. I remember.
Yes, it was.
You were like, how do I respond to this? But
well, no, it came in like
rather funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the time, I was already like kind of. I think it did kind of affect me at the time because that was when I was in my really, really bad phase of like depression from lockdown, and so this was just kind of another thing when I was already at my lowest point. So that was at the time. It really, really shook me. But now I'm in a better place. I just think it's really fucking hilarious. But yeah, that's an interesting. I might be able to. I want to be able to talk more about it in the future, because it was pretty funny. But for now, I think we should return to some of our best friends. They are, of course, the seals of news. Now, where have they gone? Where have the seals of news
They've
gone?
run off. They've buggered off. They're scarpered.
There they are. They're back. There they are. So, we got two seals left. I just want to touch on one of them real quick. Just because, I know the story itself is past, but I just kind of was ranting to myself about it the other day, so I just want to talk about it. So the seal, the Groucho Marx seal, says has kids written on it. Now, this relates to like a big kind of outrage that has been going on in the UK, particularly over the last weekend. So for those of you who aren't in the UK and probably don't know what this is about, there was a campaign for basically whilst schools, people, the country has been in lockdown. There were like pushes for children to continue to receive free school meals whilst not being in school. And these were kind of eventually provided through vouchers, but then there's been a big push for that to kind of be extended to whilst they're not in school over the Christmas holidays. And it was mostly kind of pushed forward by, was it Mark Rashford or something? Marcus Rashford? The footballing man. The footballing man pushed it. But, Labour ran with it. The footballman passed. He done did it. And so Labour kind of ran with it, and the Tories voted against it. And it was I'll admit it's bad optics. It's bad optics because the debate has only ever been phrased in one way, which is, these are poor kids. Yeah. Do you want them to starve? Like there is like, and so this is the reason why I want to talk about it. Like following the vote, there's been a lot of abuse aimed at Tory MPs. Labour MPs like Dawn Butler have effectively been egging it on, making up, Angela Rayner calling an MP scum, not really apologising for it. So like Labour, the lovely, the party of like kind of gentler politics, openly calling their opponents scum.
But I bet they regret saying that now. I bet they really regret saying that.
Well, the thing is like their base has always considered Tories scum anyway. So if they didn't consider Tories scum over this, they would have considered them scum over something else. I mean, so like it's kind of like that saying, like if you disagree with the right, they'll think that you're like wrong or mistaken. Disagree with someone on the left, and they'll think you're evil. Like this is a perfect personification of that, because the whole argument against against like people who were against this kind of school meal being expanded to over Christmas is that they are evil, that these are sinister, vile, repugnant, subhuman scum. I think it was what comedian was it? There's a guy who used to be on Celebrity Juice a lot. Can't remember.
I never really watched that.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it.
I don't like subjecting myself to bad television.
Yeah, it's not a good show. But I can't remember what he's called, but like he basically he posted about how Tories are like, he considers Tories vermin, and like even people that goes for people who voted Tory as well. And like that's the typical mind of the leftist. Like they consider anyone who effectively supports ideas that they disagree with to be less than human. And you very, very, very rarely see people who are on the left, not so much people with left-leaning sensibilities, but people who are kind of in politically with the left. They very rarely, if ever, actually tell people like, no, you don't consider, they're not dirt or anything like that. Like they will always make excuses. Yeah. Like, as much as I have friends.
This is just an oppressed person expressing their anger is the one I always hear.
Yeah, like the way, I mean, they always try and just talk about how morally wrong that their opponents are, but they always seem to forget how for the left everything is just about their own morals. Like as much as I have friends who are left wing, I am fully aware that if some of them knew my real kind of political views on certain subjects, they would genuinely stop being friends with me because they would no longer think of me as human. And that's the way in which leftists operate. And it's a way that they always have, because everything is about their fight against evil. The left, a lot of leftists literally see like the political spectrum as like good versus evil. Like if you're right wing, you are evil. I mean, like right wing is often used as a synonym for bad. But kind of going back onto the subject at hand, like there isn't really a lot of conversation that you can have with why this should or should not be expanded. I mean, are we going to have discussions on personal responsibility? Are we going to have discussions on at what point do our responsibilities become the government's responsibilities? And at what point is it okay for the government to continuously creep into people's lives?
It's a case of government created problem, a solution is more government. Government creates problem, further problem, solution is more government. Yeah. It's like government creates problem where everyone is poor and children are hungry and families are struggling. And the solution is throw more money at it, not let people work.
Mm.
It's very typical of that mindset. You're right.
Yeah, it is.
Quite often in the first world, at least as far as my experience and what I've seen, there are regulations in place that keep people from fixing this problem. Like again, here in Florida, there was we have a lot of kids that go hungry because we have a lot of poor people here in Florida, even though I think the percentage of our population is lower as far as poor people. And there was a lady who she started just offering meals, and she would just stay in her backyard every evening. She would just have like whatever sandwiches or soup or something, and all the kids in the neighborhood could come over and just eat. And that was just a thing she would do for after school. And the government shut her down, said legally you cannot do this. You cannot be handing out food to the public that has not been okayed by the government. And there was a church that was
Wow.
give out food to the homeless, and they would cook big meals and then go down to the local park and set up and just provide hot meals for the homeless people. And again, the local government came in and said, no, this food has not been approved by the FDA, by our things. And so they literally took the food, poured bleach over it, and put it in the trash. And they said they poured bleach over it so that the homeless wouldn't pull it out of the trash.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I
it
remember
was
that one,
very,
yeah.
very
Down
upsetting.
with the government.
It's really difficult. Like I said, it's difficult to have proactive community help now. You're right. Everything. That's why people's like, oh, how can you be against certain types of regulation? It's just like, well, because of the unforeseen consequences it always has.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like, even with this, we have at least seen some sort of community response with like various kind of organizations who would effectively do a better job at like making like, you know, kind of sorting the problem, which is getting food to hungry children, than the government would. Like, a friend of mine who works in the civil service actually put it through to me quite well, in that if you were to like, you know, kind of have this as like a government program, it would need to be passed to like a particular department in the civil service that have 100 other initiatives that they have to juggle with. They would need to have like there's so much bureaucracy involved with the amount of meetings, and you'd have meetings to plan the meetings, and you would need to then budget and make sure that everything's going to different
So
areas.
you're saying it would be a government initiative, is what you're saying?
It would be, yes. And like, yeah, basically, yes. It would just become another government initiative, which would mean that it would be likely that these hungry children would get their food a couple of months from now. Yeah, they'll be really, really hungry by then.
But even then, I work as a bookkeeper. I've worked with lots of businesses, nonprofits, startups, all different sorts. And I've seen, especially among nonprofits, there are some that exist just in order to exist. And for every dollar that's given to them, maybe 10 to 20 cents actually goes out to help or do whatever it is needed to help people or whatever. And the rest just goes to paying salaries and upkeep and all of this. And that's basically what government is. They would take where a nonprofit that was actually dedicated to this. I did bookkeeping for a nonprofit that provided food to hungry children in a third world. It was a missionary, and they did have a feeding program. And with them, it was like 97 to 98 cents on the dollar actually went to feeding children. With the government, it's going to be like maybe 20 to 30 cents at best.
Again,
a good day.
This is also why I don't give to charity, because of most of the big charities, it's 90% the other way.
You need to, yes, you need to research the charities. I have very long hair, and my hair just grows well. I used to donate it every so often to Locks of Love, because they supposedly provide wigs to children who have had cancer, and so all of their hair has fallen out. So they actually would make wigs from human hair, which are expensive wigs, and give to children. So I thought. Then I found out that Locks of Love actually doesn't. They make wigs that they sell at a reduced price. And by the way, of the hair that is donated, about half of it is sold to pay for operating expenses, which again, as a bookkeeper, I know what that means. So yes, definitely research any charity before giving them money. Some are excellent, some are amazing, but a lot of them aren't.
One really good charity is Seal Rescue Ireland. People should give money to help the seals.
Yes, help the seals.
Now,
I give to local charities. There are some local charities here that I do engage with, but they are very local, and I literally know where the money's going, like physically, because I used to volunteer in the little warehouse that they have here.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a local charity shop.
Like give to your local, support local. I mean, like, we should all be supporting local more anyway. Like even like your local shops over your big chains, as much as they might have fallen in love with IKEA. Like, still support local. And I think that especially goes for charity. I mean, hell, you can even go out and volunteer at a local level. It's a lot easier to do so.
Yes.
And also remember that starting up a local charity is going to do so much more than asking the government to do it. So if you see something that needs doing, don't say, "Oh, the government should fix this." No, they really shouldn't. Yeah,
I mean, like, if you have a charity that just has like the one purpose, they just do that one purpose. They solve that one problem. The government has like thousands of problems to solve, most of which they cause themselves. Just kind of put that in perspective. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
this is just kind of why, like, we can't seem to have. Whilst I know we've been having a discussion about it, but at least in the public sphere, it's this is such a toxic subject. Like, you disagree with just the government doing it, you're scum. And like, even when you're seeing like companies or like businesses or whatever stepping forward to helping people, there feels like an almost begrudging like kind of air about it. It's like, oh, we're only doing this because the government isn't. And it's like, well, actually, it's much better if you do it. Like, you've seen how good a job the government has done with fucking COVID. Like, do you really want to hand them one more thing to fuck up? Like, seriously, do you want to?
Yes,
like,
you're right.
How often, like, what was the last thing, like, especially speaking from a British perspective, what was the last thing that our government actually did that was good? So why would you want them to do more? Why would you want them to, like, you want them to feed children? Well, all you'll do is you'll pass a bill. You'll like kind of pat yourselves on the back thinking, aren't we good? Our tax money is going to help these children. And then it will fuck up. Somehow it will mess up because this stuff always does. It could go over budget. Therefore, it could be things delayed. Maybe they didn't have quite enough meetings. But something will go wrong. And then all of a sudden we're just yelling at a, kind of like a minister and saying, why hasn't this been delivered? When in all of that time, when people have been spurging out over it, we could have just done it ourselves.
Yep.
Yes.
Is that not better? Is that not a better way of running things rather than getting daddy government to do it all? Honestly, I become more and more libertarian every day.
Yay!
But it's true. It's true. Like, the food. Also, as another side note, I don't like a lot of the rhetoric about like they speak about the children as though they're emaciated. Like they're not. There's certainly hungry children in this country, but I don't think it's quite at the level some people have made it out to be.
No, I know, no.
Like it's not like we're living in famine conditions. Like there absolutely are children who don't get enough to eat in this country. Like that's a fact, but they don't need to kind of expand it on that.
No.
Anyway, I don't think we got a problem is coming. Like he sent me a message over an hour ago saying like he'll jump on when he can. But I don't think he's coming. But that's okay. We still have one more. Like I've kind of noticed that this has been going on for a while, but we still got the kind of main events to talk about, so to speak.
I suppose we could do it in a expedited sense. I know we don't like to run too far over 2 hours because we don't really like to watch those.
Yeah,
it's I don't know. It is what it is. But shall we get to the main course then?
Yes, let's get to the main course. Let me just bring up the seals because they want to pop in as well.
Welcome back, seals.
Yes, Franken seal. Groucho seal. All of the seals have had their time, but now it's Count Dracula.
Very fitting.
So basically, this just like there's been a lot to kind of talk about with America's interview with Tucker Carlson about the Biden allegations. But really, like, what I kind of wanted to talk about is we've got the election next week, and what way do you guys think it's going to go? So, Liz, let's start with you because you're actually in America, and I think like Florida is kind of considered almost like a battleground state at times.
Yes, it is definitely a battleground state.
So
every time.
What like rather than who do you want to win, who do you think is going to win? Because you're probably in a better place to know it than either me or Scrump.
I still think it's kind of up in the air. I think if I had to make it, if I was placing a bet, I would bet for Trump, but I wouldn't bet at high odds. I think he's going to win, but it's so hard to tell because again, you have so many people, you have nobody or almost nobody that's for Biden. Nobody likes Biden. But you have so many people who are anti-Trump. And that's, if you remember, that's how Trump won the first time, is not because people were pro-Trump, but because they were anti-Hillary. People hated Hillary so much, they went out and voted against her. I almost voted for Trump. I didn't like Trump at all. I didn't want to vote for Trump, but I almost voted for him the first time because of how much I disliked Hillary. I ended up not voting for him. I am going to vote for him this time. So I think that, again, it's people look at it and say, oh, people are so excited about Trump and nobody's excited about Biden. It's like, yeah, that's true, but people aren't voting for Biden. They're voting against Trump. And I see so many people in my area. If you drive around my neighborhood, there are Biden signs everywhere. There may be 2 or 3 Trump signs. Now, that I think a big part of that is just because of the area in which I live. I'm not surprised that they're going for Biden, but it's so hard to tell.
Was that different in 2016?
Yes. Well, I don't think there were any signs really. I didn't notice signs in 2016. I don't usually pay attention to political signs because I'm more libertarian. I don't like either of the big parties, and I haven't voted for either party since I think since I was in college. I think I've been either third party or write-in every time. This is going to be the first time in quite a while I've actually voted either Republican or Democrat. So for me, I don't tend to notice them. Although after Bush v. Gore, I remember that one because we were very concerned that Gore was going to win. My family, I was, and I remember when Bush won, we're so excited about that because just because we were very concerned if Gore won, that would have been really, really bad for various reasons. But that you guys probably don't even remember that. Or wouldn't care. But I remember the next day, my sisters came home with a Gore sign. They said that nobody would care if they took the sign because the election was over. And some of us are like, you stole that. And like, they're not going to care now. I'm like, I don't think that's okay. And I still remember that. My sisters, conservative, Christian, sweet, shy girls stole a political sign. So that's like the only time we ever got involved in any election was Bush v. Gore. Anyway. But so this time I actually am a lot more interested. But again, so many people are anti-Trump because you look at the media again, they're just straight up lying. And they're pushing it so hard. And people who only watch mainstream media, they're only getting the lies and they don't even realize they're getting the lies.
I have the ability to dispense some white pills for you here because I have been tracking the numbers very closely with early voting. And oh boy, is Biden underperforming for what he's supposed to be doing.
Right, so let me bring up the Florida link, which you shared with me earlier. So here we got Florida early voting statistics. So Scrum, walk us through it because it's
okay. So this is quite a deep dive.
But that's to be expected. That's normal. You got to realize that a lot of Florida is not very populated. I mean, we've got swamps, we've got woodlands. You look at this, only the dense suburban areas are the ones that are going to be voting overall for Biden. In these other areas, no. You're going to have little tiny pockets for Biden, but the county itself will go for Bush. This is normal.
Okay, who do you think is leading in-person early voting then?
Probably Trump.
Yes, but what percent do you think he's leading by in-person early voting?
In-person early voting, I would expect it to be like 75-25, something like that.
Oh, no, it's not quite that severe, but in terms of the numbers they're expecting, in-person early voting, according to their projections, Biden was actually supposed to be winning. We're not supposed to see a red swing until Election Day, and that just simply hasn't happened.
But again, you're looking at Florida. You're looking at Florida. This is a majority retiree state. Most of the people here are old. They will not be voting in person. They're going to be voting mail-in.
A lot of them actually have responded saying that they will be voting in person. There's still quite a large contingent who've said that there's going to be an in-person kind of on the day. If you look at the breakdown between Republicans who say they're going to vote in person and Democrats who say they're going to vote in person, there's a huge difference. It looks like we have essentially had a lot of the Democrat votes already because of the mail-in votes. There's a large amount of registered Republicans still to vote in Florida. This is why I wanted to take you through the numbers here. Because if you go to at the bottom, it says if you combine them together. There should be a button kind of in the middle a bit. It says early voting. There's like in person only, and there's like mail in plus in person.
Here we go.
But again, I think Trump is going to win. I really do, but I would not put high odds on it. I still think there's a strong possibility that he loses.
Like, my kind of view is, like, it's kind of complicated because we have in a lot of polls, like, I know we shouldn't really kind of hedge a lot on polls because polls, especially over the last 5 years, have Like, they've been wrong like never before. Like it's almost kind of unheard of, like how unreliable they have been. But when
the thing is, why I'm bringing this up is because compared to the polls and the modeling, the deficit is so huge, even in just early voting. And if you look at some of the surveys that have been done, if you look at the breakdown of who will be voting when, the real surge of Republican voters is yet to happen, even in places like Florida.
Right.
Sorry?
I said right.
Yeah, I was good. My internet did a thing there. So it's in terms of who's voted, the breakdowns of who's voted, where they voted, and the kind of the turnout with each demographic group. The trends that have been proposed by the Democrats of this huge wave of youth vote, this huge wave of female vote, it hasn't materialized. If you look at the break, there's a link here as well for North Carolina, and in North Carolina, in terms of early voting from last time, basically there's no difference in North Carolina in the polls at this stage. There's no difference between 2016 and 2020.
I'm looking at this. By the way, this graphic, is this people who have already voted?
This is people who have already voted. And it's just by party registration. It doesn't factor in independence. It doesn't factor in people switching. But the surge of Democrat turnout.
Well, you wouldn't expect that in North Carolina. That's a very red state, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a state where Biden is seen as leading by 7 points.
Yeah, that's kind of like saying Texas is leading. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure North Carolina is fairly red.
No, it is actually a toss-up state these days. It is a closer state because it's a large black population. North Carolina and Florida now are actually both seen as bellwether states, which is why
I might be mixing it up with South Carolina. Sorry about that.
Which is why North Carolina and Florida are both seen as NC's a purple state. And
Florida is almost always a swing state. You never know which way it's going to go.
Again, Biden, the Republicans have been told to vote in person and on the day, basically, and the Democrats it's been hammered into them that they need to vote by mail, vote early, be scared of COVID. So the trend you would think we would see is a massive surge in mail-in voting, giving Joe Biden ridiculous numbers in places like Florida, places like North Carolina, places that are purple states, places that are seen as bellwethers and toss-ups. But that hasn't materialized yet, and we are, what are we, like, we're less than a week out from the election?
Yeah, 1 week from
and
yesterday.
The percentage of Democrats that's already voted is a lot higher than the percentage of registered Republicans that has already voted. And the percentage of registered Republicans who vote is generally higher than the percentage of registered Democrats who vote. That is just a statistical fact in elections. So, like I said, the numbers that Joe Biden needs by this guy's model, he's a real data autist. I think he's done a great job with looking at this. Even just by 2016's numbers, even if we just take it by the 2016 election, Joe Biden, in terms of breakdown, needs about a 5% lead over Hillary Clinton overall in most states. In Florida, I think he predicted it was an 8%. And in North Carolina, I think it was a flat 5%. In North Carolina, I think Joe Biden is trending 0.7% above where Hillary was. And in Florida, where he has to make up a bigger deficit, he's only trending just under, I think it's just under 2% now. That's down from 3% the other day. So the polls are actually swinging back in the other direction, which is what we'd expect to be happening now. The actual numbers, if you crunch the numbers at this stage that Joe Biden needs for the supposed landslide, never mind even a narrow victory, they aren't materializing. The most likely outcome, even if the independents split 50-50, seems to be a repeat of 2016, which is a Trump victory.
I find, like, I get that there's kind of a lot of stats and stuff which is going to be involved in this, but like this is an uphill battle for Trump, and the reason why I say that is simply because the media as it is now have been completely relentless in attacking Trump in a way that they haven't for any president I can remember. Like, I mean, well, just earlier I watched the latest episode, like the latest Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, and that the start of that is like, it has like a intro thing. It's like voting day, and Homer is trying to, Homer is not like at home, and Marge is very angry because this is the most important vote that they can ever cast, and it's basically Marge and Lisa and everyone is basically saying, "Oh, you need to vote for Biden because Trump is evil," and it has this list of like everything that Trump's been accused of doing. Like saying Mexicans are rapists when that wasn't what he said, but that's still how they were putting it across, and that's The Simpsons is far from its prime, but it's still a massive kind of cultural institution. It's fair to say, and yeah. So even it isn't even just your broadcasters like CNN, which are at this point grossly defending the Democrats in favor of attacking Trump. The way that they are right now, the a potential Biden administration will not be held accountable. The media, and that should really, really worry people. If Biden gets in, the media is not going to be holding them to account, so they will be able to effectively do whatever they want. I mean, they don't even care about the whole Hunter Biden scandal, which they're trying to pass. They've been trying to rubbish and saying it's unsubstantiated, or they got this information by dubious means or anything like that.
They're saying that it's literal Russian propaganda. I mean, on Facebook, I talk to real people, and there are people on Facebook saying that is Russian propaganda. It's not true.
Yeah,
they actually believe that,
and that's how far. And that's how far.
Again, there tend to be a lot of social media bubbles. Twitter, most people aren't on Twitter. And actually on Facebook, if you look at the figures on Facebook of what's shared there, Facebook has been trying to tilt the numbers because Facebook's news algorithms and what gets shared on Facebook trends so hard conservative. It actually 2/3 of news on Facebook is from places like Daily Wire. The biggest shared personality on Facebook is Ben Shapiro. It's not a fact many people know, but this is true. I've linked it before. There's a great Forbes article about it, surprisingly, because Forbes is used to pretty shit these days.
Yeah.
If you look at cable news, Tucker Carlson with his interview with Bablinski likely set a news programming record with that. I think a lot of the power base here is illusionary, and the polling has become so unmoored from reality because they've become so unmoored from reality. I don't think a lot of people's panic and worry about this is I honestly am very firmly believe that Trump is going to win. And I only think his biggest hurdle is whether he will retake Congress or not. He's not going to lose the Senate. The numbers show that he's not going to lose the Senate. And the numbers also show that he is very unlikely to lose the election. It's basically the most likely scenario is probably just a repeat of 2016 straight up.
I like I said, I think he's going to win. I think that's more likely. I think it's very possible there's a Trump landslide and we take both the House and the Senate. I think it would be wonderful. I'm hoping for that. But I'm seeing enough things. I'm talking to people and hearing what individual people are actually saying enough to believe there is the possibility that Biden wins. And even if it's not by actual votes, there's also the possibility voter fraud, especially in Florida. I mean, I think it's Broward County is the county that is just notorious for voter fraud. And it's just normal. I think everybody just knows that. If you get that in enough places, Biden could win through cheating. I don't think that's likely.
Battles, though, with that. They lost their court battle in the Supreme Court about counting postal votes after Election Day. There's been a lot of
you don't need that. You don't need that. Okay, in Broward County, you had actual people just literally tearing up ballots. You had other people filling out ballots. I mean, with a stack of ballots that they caught somebody just filling out ballots and dumping them in. This is not, look, this voter came in too late. This is literal voter fraud that goes on every election.
What way are they doing this? Are they doing it in favor of the Republicans or the Democrats?
Democrats. Broward County is a pretty blue county.
Yeah, it's Democratic, I believe. But there are actual, when I'm talking voter fraud, I'm not talking about, votes that just came in too late, votes that shouldn't be counted. I'm talking people just actually either destroying ballots or filling out extra ones.
I'm aware of the Broward County stuff, but that happened last election. I don't think that they have.
It happens every election.
Yeah, I don't think they have the critical mass to cheat this election. We thought it was going to happen
No,
last
they
election.
don't. They don't. What I'm saying is, if that spread, if other counties started doing the same thing, that's the issue.
I think there's so many eyes on that now, though. There's so many people who are willing to whistleblow. We saw it come out of Texas today with another Project Veritas, which has actually caught fire in the Texas media. They can't ignore that one. It's so big. There's a huge scandal going on right now with potential Texas voter fraud. And the thing is, it was ballot harvesting. They were having to work very hard to even just change a dozen or so votes because there are so many eyes on them. And, major judges may be implicated in this. So I think there's a perception that there's going to be greater voter fraud this time. But I think the perception and the wariness is actually going to diminish the amount compared to what it usually is, where people are generally complacent. There seems to be an acceptance this time that voter fraud, one, does take place, and two, is a major concern, which is something that people really weren't watching for even in 2016, at least not mainstream people. I think, like I said, people have got very... for want of a better term, black pill. They got very anxious about that. And I don't think the real indicators, by design, are being shown to people. I think people are reading polls and they're, engaging with people in these democratic bubbles that the media and the social media companies are creating. But nationwide, I've heard a lot of things from places like Ohio, from the swing states, that Ohio is extremely, extremely anti-Biden because of how they feel they've been treated. Again, Pennsylvania with the oil comments, Texas as well. There's all this talk about Texas finally turning blue again and flipping all these states. And materially, I think a lot of people don't live in the mindset the Democrats want them to. People have experienced 4 years of Trump, and they realize the pandemic and the disease is not his fault. I think more people are concerned about the lockdowns than they are about the pandemic at this point.
No, it's different people, though.
Sorry?
But it's different people. The thing is that the people who are more concerned about the lockdowns, are more concerned about the disease than the lockdowns, are the people who are well off financially. The people who are poor, yes, they're going to be more concerned about the lockdowns, but they are also more likely to be minorities, which are going to be more concerned with Trump's racism, in theory, if they can be convinced of that. So yes, you have these different groups that are concerned with different things, and the Democrats are doing a good job at marketing to each one based on what their fears are.
Again, the voter registration itself, the figures have been very worrying for the Democrats too. They have, again, lost pace in places like North Carolina. There's been a lot more voter registration in terms of black Republicans. Like I said, the actual indicators and the things people aren't talking about are trending very, very positively for Trump. But all we're talking about are these 17-point different polls. It's ridiculous. And I'm very confident in saying that Trump will win an election night. And I'm worried about what Alex Jones said on Joe Rogan's show, which is the whole 79 days of hell until the inauguration. Because I do not think, no matter how big the margin of victory is, that the Democrats will accept it. They've said that about Trump, and that's projection.
Didn't Hillary already tell Biden not to concede?
That was Podesta.
Podesta?
Well, I think Hillary said it too, yes.
Yeah, Hillary. Yeah, but that was famously during the New York Times sitting on the war games that the Democrats were doing, where it came up as a split, came up as a narrow Trump victory. They basically said if Trump does not win the popular vote, that they will try and get the West Coast to secede from the Union. That is what what Podesta did in the war games.
Yeah, they won't do that.
I don't know at this stage. I didn't think I'd be sat here with government propaganda around me about not leaving my house because of a flu, but here we are. So never say never.
They would sooner attempt a coup and attempt to take over the Union than to secede. The Democrats are not. The difference between the Civil War and now is that during the Civil War, the South just said, "Look, just leave us alone. We don't want to do what you're doing. Okay, we're going to go our way. You go your way. we're just not interested anymore. And the North said, no, you can't leave. I don't believe the Democrats would do that today. They would not just say, all right, we're going to do our thing, you do your thing. They're going to say, no, we want the whole thing. We're going to push you out. So yes, I could see civil war coming. Yes, I don't think it would be like the prior Civil War, but I could see that as a possibility, hoping it doesn't come to that, excuse me. But if it did come to that, I don't believe it would be the Democrats just saying, okay, bye, we're leaving. No, I think it would be them actually trying to take over.
That would be, yeah.
It would be pretty bad, yeah.
It's going to be fascinating this time next week. This time next week in Seal of Approval, we'll obviously be talking about the election result. But I do think no matter who wins, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens, because I think people voting for Biden are just kind of assuming that everything would go back to normal, whatever normal is. That's simply not going to happen. I think that the kind of the woke mob, the kind of people who we've seen egging on and making apologetics for the wave of riots that have happened across the states over the last few months, that's not just going to go away overnight. These people are going to be not just having various different institutions under their belts, but they're going to have the government under their belt as well. It's not going to be particularly pleasant, and things won't just go back to normal. I don't think Biden will be particularly strong as a president, but then I don't think he would be president for all that long anyway. It would I'd give it about I don't know what the minimum term what the minimum amount of time a president would have to serve until they could step down.
The shortest. 2 days is the shortest. There was a man that there was one president. He insisted there was a storm his inauguration day, and he insisted on giving his 2-hour inaugural address in the rain, and he died 2 days later from a cold that he caught. So yeah, that's the shortest any president has been in office.
Well, in that case, I would give it. I would if Biden becomes president, I would genuinely give it a year until Harris takes over.
Oh, no, I think she'll take over next day. I just don't think it'll be officially her taking over. I think that Biden will just kind of retire to a room in the White House, and Harris will be doing everything. And Biden will just rubber stamp it all. I think it'll be immediate. But I think,
but what I mean is officially.
Oh, officially, I think he'll stay president for the whole term.
Yeah, I think it'll keep him alive for the first term, and then he'll do what he said. He's even hinted at himself that he wouldn't seek a second term. So I think
I'm sure he won't.
no, he wouldn't. He'd be far too old.
I think if he won, it would get kind of ugly in that I think the Republican states would get much stronger, much more wealthy, and the Democratic states would get much worse, because I do think Biden, or Harris through Biden, would attempt to do a national lockdown, a national mask mandate, and the Republican states would just refuse to comply. They would say, you don't have the right, because they don't. The president does not have the right to lock down the whole country. And that was one of the issues when people were originally saying, Trump needs to lock everything down, and he doesn't have the right to do that. And when he talked about doing that, when he even suggested that he might, it was the Democrats who said, you don't have the right to do that. And I think that's what we would see happen. The Republican states would stay open, meaning they would stay in business, meaning their citizens would actually have jobs, would have money, would have food, and would continue to grow. And all the Democratic states would lock down. Their people would literally be starving. The businesses would shut down. People would be fleeing the states. And then, of course, the Democrat states are going to be demanding money to cover all of their expenses since they're not getting any tax income. All the Republican states are going to start saying, wait, why should we pay for you? We're making money, yes, but why should we pay for you when you are intentionally locking everything down? And that's where we would also see the potential for, in theory, civil war. If Biden, or Harris through Biden, then attempted to send in the army to the Republican states to take the money to pay for the Democrat states, we could have a serious issue. And again, it's not a definite, but there are so many scenarios where this could go bad, depending on what happens, depending on who wins, depending on how it's handled.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, but it feels very much like we're at a calm before the storm moment for so many different places in the Western world right now. I mean, in Europe, in Europe, we kind of have things just about to bubble over with terms of the lockdowns that we're dealing with. With you guys, it's the election, and I can't help but feel in a month's time, the world will probably be in a worse place regardless of what happens.
Well, I'll tell you another concern I have. If Trump wins, and again, I think that Trump's going to win. I think that he is going to turn things around because he's going to open everything back up, and I think that America is going to recover, and it's going to be great. But then I'm looking at Europe doing these additional lockdowns, shutting everything down, and I mean, they are going to go into a much greater recession. And what if at that point Russia or China or both decides, here's our opportunity to invade Europe, and then here's the U.S., which is again strong now and powerful and ready to do stuff, and then so Europe is calling on the U.S., hey, come help us. Here's now World War III. What's the U.S. going to do? If the U.S. actually steps in, I mean, what happens? Do we just take over Europe? I mean, I can see so many really bad things happening worldwide, given how the various governments are handling this. And again, I'm hoping for the best. I'm really hoping everything, calms down, everything gets better. But I can just see so many possible scenarios that could be really, really bad.
Yeah, it's. We need some good news. We really need some good news.
Hopefully Trump wins, and then hopefully he will be able to speak to Europe. And I mean, he will be able to encourage the Tory government in Great Britain, saying, just leave the EU, forget the deal. You have a deal with us. You're going to be fine. And then Europe realizing we have no power, or the EU realizing we have no power. Okay, maybe we shouldn't shut down because we really don't want to be completely weakened and open to invasion while the UK and the US are very strong. And we don't want this to happen. So, I'm hoping that that's what happens, and everybody wakes up and realizes, yeah, even if we would like to keep all the power, we're going to lose everything if we keep these lockdowns going. So, anyway, that's my hope.
With Scrump, do you have any good news?
I do have some good news, yes.
You have some good news?
Yes, it seems that things are not as dire in the ocean as we thought. We found the first coral reef to be discovered in 120 years. And it is apparently a bigger boy. It is on it's a massive detached coral reef that stands taller than the Empire State Building, and it's the first to be discovered, like I said, in 120 years. The Smith Ocean Institute made their groundbreaking discovery earlier this week when they found the natural structure in the Great Barrier Reef. It's a 500 meters high, which is also taller than the Sydney Tower, the Petronas Towers. It's good. We thought a lot of the coral in that area of the world was gone, and we have found more of it. And it's surprising because, again, it's usually we think that the oceans are quite well explored, especially not the shallow ocean where coral can grow. But it turns out we still have wonders yet to find, and ecosystems that are increasingly rare because of warmer oceans for, again, whatever reason. I don't think we fully understand the cycles of the planet personally. But again, that's a question that I think is in debate rather than people saying, shouting solved science at you. But yeah, we found there's hopefully going to be some cute clownfish in there too, which will be nice.
The sea is absolutely amazing. But speaking of the sea, do you know who lives in the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
No,
something in Cuboid is he? No,
it's our seal of the week.
Oh, of course,
it's our seal of the week. So there is a straw poll in the description. I'll post a link to it in the chat as well, just in case people can't see it. So I know that we got a problem, didn't show, but if you can vote for like me, Scrump, or Liz, and enjoy our seal of the week. And there he is.
Aha!
Look at him. So look at him. So his name is Leo, and he has a leaf.
He does have a leaf.
He has a leaf
because
it's autumn. He's a good seal, and like he's showing everyone that it's autumn. It's a wholesome time for your leaves, and like just look at how big and shiny his eyes are.
He's very cute. Yes.
Yeah, I love like seals. They're amazing animals. So if everyone's voting in the to see who gets the seal of approval, we will announce the results shortly. Whilst we still talk about this this seal. Otters aren't persecuted minority, Sonny Jim. Like I think that otters are almost overrepresented when we're talking about cute things in the ocean. Like I love otters. I think
Are you
otters
saying there's a pro otter bias?
in the media, absolutely.
The
Like,
media, but they're pro otter bias.
The media with their like, you know, kind of like otters running the media.
Otters run the media.
Like otter, like I look like I love the sound that otters make. Like when they run around, like the kind of squeaking sound. Like I remember being in London Zoo years ago, and I was watching the otters, and they all kind of came out of this, you know, kind of like little house, and they were all walking in a line, like kind of around the enclosure, up to the water, and then they would all kind of dive in a line whilst they were squeaking, and it was absolutely adorable. But there's also this seal.
but also the seal.
The seal. Like, look at the seal. Like,
Consider the following.
Consider the following. A seal.
That's pretty. It's a pretty great seal, though. I do like the shot with the leaf. That's very cute.
It is adorable. So with that, I think it's time to show the results of the poll. So Scrump, can I have the drum roll, please? And the winner is Scrump.
Yes, I am victorious.
And
I feel
everyone
like I
else
lost to the guy who's
In
not
your
here.
face.
So yeah, we all kind of drew apart from Scrump, who won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, Team Walrus. Team Walrus is absolutely acceptable. Walrus is a fantastic animal.
Walruses are pretty cool.
Walrus
Sea lions are kind of mediocre.
Sea lions are jerks, and a lot of this goes back to when I was in
Sea lion asshole.
well, yeah, like I was at SeaWorld in Florida years ago, and I got some fish, and I had my fish, and there was the seal looking at the fish and was like, "Oh, I'd like to have some fish," and so I was like, "I'll give the seal some fish," but then this arsehole sea lion like basically knocked the little seal away and started screaming at me. And like it was just horrible. I just wanted to give this little seal some fish, but the sea lion was just bullying this little seal because the sea lion wanted the fish. I was able to get fish to the little seal in the end, but like from that day, I kind of thought, not sure about them sea lions. Not
Maybe
quite,
just one sea lion.
not quite sure about them. You know, they're not quite. You know, they're not quite kosher. But anyway, so yeah, I think we've come to the end of the seal of approval. I mean, this has been quite a long stream actually, especially for a seal of approval stream. I mean, like 2 hours and currently over 2 hours and 20 minutes. This is like I've noticed that when we have like a 3-person stream, like they seem to generally be longer streams.
They do. I just got a quick GTA Driver 1. The next we have 2 Dump with Scrumps that are edited and ready to go. Dev's just waiting for his channel to be monetized. That's all.
I've got some more super chats to read out as well. Illiterati with the $5 North Star or Australia, Rose. Lovely to send you a message live finally. And good day, based Liz.
Good day. Hello.
So for those who don't know, Nostar means like good evening. Hollow 1916 with the €10. Thank you. I've not seen anyone talk about the counter movement against Pope Heretic Francis that's been boiling away for years now. He's given the CCP right to appoint their own bishops. So by CCP, do you mean the Chinese Communist Party?
The Communist Party, basically.
They can appoint their own bishops.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't know that.
Given the current Pope, I'm not surprised.
Oh god, that is awful.
Yeah, fuck woke.
I'm not even a Catholic, and I think that's awful.
Acquire Dalai Lama.
The current Pope has basically denied Christianity, and that he said that, oh, you don't have to be a Christian to go to heaven. It's like that's kind of the foundation of Christianity.
Yep. It's a strange. He's a strange pope. That's
Pope?
Pope. And EC90 with the £5. Bojo should say he is going to pass a new law to fund free meals for kids for a 5% tax on Premier League footballers. Call it the Rashford Bill. Yeah, but you still have the problem that government is dealing with it. Like you still have the government doing it, and they're not going to do a good job because they are hopeless. But if I understand your point.
But then, and they're going to do a terrible job, and then they're going to say, well, it's underfunded, we need more money, and so then there will be an additional tax because, well, now the program exists, we have to keep it going, and it'll just continue to grow.
Yeah. And that is why the government shouldn't run things.
Yes.
So before we go, like Scrumpy mentioned that you had some more dumps recorded. Do you have anything else that you would like to share?
Not really. Things are a bit slow at the moment. So I'll hopefully be in an election stream. I'll either be on with Dev or Sargon or someone else. We'll see. I'm going to hijack an election stream. And I'm going to try not to say the N-word.
Yes.
Yeah,
I have next Wednesday off work. Like I booked it off at the start of the year. This is like I am staying up all night to
it's gonna be great.
Whatever happens.
It's gonna be great.
So Tuesday evening, like Scrump, I'm probably just gonna tag along with you. Whatever stream you go on, get me in on.
I'll try and get you in on it, yeah.
So yeah, you should hopefully see me on a stream somewhere. Someone's Sargon's Dev. Like I was on Sargon's a bit during the election last time, so hopefully get on something like that again. It should be fun. Liz, do you have anything to share as well?
No, I'm also probably going to be on a few streams. I'm already booked for Academic Agent, and I think I'm going to be on Not So Obvious's stream later in the evening. Academic Agent is only planning to stream before the election, and then once results start coming in, he's going to stop streaming.
You should watch AA's videos about the election, though, because he's said basically the same things I had. So
well, I've heard many things, and again, I majored in statistics, so when I see all of these analyses based on statistics, I can see where they could be wrong. It's not to say that they are wrong, but there are so many assumptions that go into all of these polls. AA goes in, he has so many assumptions in so many of his analyses, which is not to say that they're wrong. It's just to say it can't be proven.
So also just to kind of remind you, I know that I've been quiet on my channel over the last few weeks, but I am aiming to get a brand new video out for next Tuesday. So you could have on Tuesday, you could watch my new video, and then you can watch me on a stream. Like you could have a whole Rose evening.
Yes, a Rose evening.
Would that not be fun? And then the next day, seal of approval. Well, next seal of approval, we do have Ariel Scasella coming on.
Yeah.
So like she's coming on. I don't know who else just yet. But we'll let you know. Anyway, I think this would be a good time to end it because we're almost at the 2.5 hour mark at this point.
We're getting into EFAP territory here, you know.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Liz and Scrump, as always.
Yes, thank you all for your super chats as well. Those are
yeah. Thanks everyone for your super chats. Thanks everyone who's supported me on Patreon and Subscribestar over this time as well. I know I haven't been getting out the content, but I do really appreciate people who have stuck with me, and I just appreciate everyone who's been subscribing to my channel as well, because I did recently hit the 40,000 subscriber mark.
Yeah,
that's a good milestone. Yeah, I'm nearly at the 50,000.
Yeah, you're almost half a dev.
I'm inching ever closer to the silver play button. So that's kind of like my overall like long-term goal is to get that silver play button. But anyway, nice. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in. Look out for my new video next week, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.